Hi guys, good evening. Thank you for joining the live stream. Wait, I forgot something. How do I turn this full screen? I forgot. Okay, I'm blanking out. Lol. So anyway, thank you for joining the live stream. Today is part 2 of us sort of scrutinizing and trying to delve deep into whether Shehla Rashid is a plant by the BJP or she genuinely has had a shift in her views based on new information she has come across. We can reserve her judgment, we can be skeptical, but we need to listen to her point of view as much in depth as possible. For that, we will have to listen to this 2.5 hour podcast, which is the best material we have basically. Otherwise, it's just about her one or two tweets here and there on different topics. This is kind of an extensive source material where we can try to understand her exact point of view and why her views changed or shifted. And let me just... So yesterday we discussed up until 54 minutes of the podcast. Today we are going to start right from there. And some interesting developments have been happening. First is that there's another woman from Kashmir called Yana Mir. And yesterday also someone had asked me about her, that what do you think of Yana Mir? I said that I have just watched one or two of her videos. I came to realize that she's some sort of an NGO worker, non-profit worker, social worker sort of a person in Kashmir. And she made some great videos about glorifying Martand Sun Temple and saying that, see, who was the king? Karkota Empire. Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot the name of the king who built that temple. So yeah, Lalitaditya Muktapida. So she was saying that that king has done some so much great thing protecting Kashmir from so many invaders, Tibeti invaders, etc. He has left us so much heritage to protect, etc. So much tourism spots, etc. So today in Sanjay Dixit's podcast with Ankit Shah, I saw that Sanjay Dixit was pretty harsh and pretty insanely skeptical about Shehla Rashid. That is understandable. I have no grudge against, not much grudge against people who are skeptical of Shehla Rashid, because it's just what she changed, or she was overtly saying that the government is doing good things only from about August of this year, I guess. And she said that she was in favor of the lockdowns, so indirectly or directly also she had expressed support for the government even back in 2020-21, I think. But I don't know anything about Yana Mir's past, etc. I don't know if she has also changed her views, but Sanjay Dixit said that people like Yana Mir and Shehla Rashid are both not to be trusted at all. That was pretty interesting. So do you all know of anything about past views of Yana Mir? Why was Sanjay Dixit so harsh about Yana Mir? That was pretty surprising to me. And interesting things have happened in Bengal today. Not today, I think. One Trinamool leader got again killed, and based on a suspicion of who killed him, another Trinamool leader got beaten to death. And they said that we don't trust the police anymore. Kaka, link dao ebare. Link of what? Sham Sharma show er moto hoye geche. একসাথে ডিসকাস করি. For that I'll have to I'll need a guarantee whether you have a perfectly functioning internet connection, and does your mic work, or will it fluctuate, etc. Those sort of things. And Sham Sharma show er moto hoye geche. Yes. No. Actually, I come live. I am always about 2-3 minutes late, but the YouTube doesn't refresh on its own. You have to keep hitting refresh and check whether the live stream has actually started or not. Okay, that's the problem with YouTube. Okay, Abhishek's fine. Yeah, lots of new viewers. Shehla Rashid actually retweeted my video. That's why a lot of new viewers have come. I wonder if a lot of commies have come. And I thought I will lose much more viewers. I have lost only 2 viewers so far for doing this video on Shehla Rashid. And for those who didn't join yesterday's live stream, I am kind of cautiously optimistic about Shehla Rashid, because of course I relate to her. I get why one might think of changing their stance. Many of us have changed our stances on being leftists or liberals up until few years back, up until Corona mainly, and then becoming more on the nationalistic side or on the pro-Hindu side, etc. So far I am I think it's pretty legit of a change that has come upon Shehla Rashid. But um, I, there are some things which are small hints which are making me think that she is probably legit. But all this might be a plan anyway, so it might as well she might as well be planned by BJP. Maybe we'll never find out, maybe we'll find out some years later. But the point is, at the moment, she's a great ally to have, not ideologically really, because the one of the main reasons why I'm still not that skeptical of her is because she is not saying anything ideologically right wing. Okay, she was a leftist, she was an academically a leftist, she has studied leftist subjects, she's a PhD in sociology, and she is going on talking on leftist premises and leftist tangents only. Okay, and she's observing and appreciating BJP for being left of center, because we all know that BJP on economics at least is absolutely left of center, and she's appreciating for those things. So unless someone is absolutely blind and completely shuts themselves off from new information and real news, they will never know, never really understand that BJP is a left of center party when it comes to economics. And how many people do you think can really guard themselves from real info forever and ever? Most leftists will do that, but a lot of leftists also won't do that, which is why so many people have joined the Hindutva side of the story, right? Or even maybe not ardently pro Hindutva, but at least pro BJP. Where have these people come from? These people have come from the left only, because they have come across brand new information and changed their mind. So why can't that happen to Shehla Rashid as well? It might not, because she is after all a prominent personality, and since her saying things sends shivers down people's spine, both her enemies and her friends, and whatever she says is a significant tectonic not tectonic plate shifter, but still it is insanely significant whatever she says. And especially her being a female, an academic, a Muslim, and a PhD scholar, now assistant professor from Kashmir, born in Kashmir. Whatever she says has significant repercussions even on the international stage. Now we have to decide whether we accept her such a person's comments in favor of the government, or do we reject it completely, because whatever she says against the government will be lapped up by the international media. Now the only thing I am absolutely in disagreement with the right wing when it comes to Shehla Rashid is that some people think that she is doing this for getting government jobs or assistant sociology professor seat, etc. That I don't think is remotely the case, because she could have made much more money, like so many others, by being an academic in USA, or being a journalist, okay, or writing columns for New York Times, etc. She could have made easy money with that, because again, she is a female Muslim from Kashmir who is standing up to Narendra Modi. So she checks all boxes of all wet dreams of all liberals all over the world. Why wouldn't she get support in that matter? So let's not forget that she is, if she wanted to just make money and street cred, she could have done that much more easily, not with this process. But if she now gets great positions in BJP or in the Kashmir government, then I would have much more reasons to be skeptical. So that's not the case anymore, not yet at least. But also today also she tweeted some things. Okay, she tweeted things like that Palestinians are suffering, etc. So again, she has not really changed all her views 180 degrees all of a sudden one fine morning, right? When it comes to sociological views of the society, economical views of the society, she has made herself very clear in this podcast itself that she's still a leftist. Okay, she has not said it overtly, but she has made it clear that she is a leftist, and she is tweeting things in favor of Palestine. Not really that leave Palestine alone, but the tangent she's taking, the angle she's taking, is still in favor of Palestine. But all she has done is said that the government is not doing that bad of a job in Kashmir, and she is grateful to the Indian army. This is the only thing she has said. So we would have to be much more skeptic if she had done a complete 180 degree on all her views. That is not the case, which is why I'm not that skeptical of her at the moment. अल्तकैया इज पॉसिबल, बट अल्तकैया होता तो और कुछ सिग्निफिकेंट चीज़ों में होता. सिर्फ इतना में अल्तकैया करके क्या होगा? हो भी सकता है. आई एम 50-50 ऑन हर अल्तकैया. Yes, Saptarshi. She retweeted my video today. And that's why a lot of new viewers have come. So we criticized her, we scrutinized her, whatever exactly the word scrutinize means. That is what we did to her live stream, her podcast yesterday during our live stream, and she retweeted it. The difference, exaspheric, is that you were a Hindu or at least a dharmic. She is and will be Muslim. At the end, choose Islam always. Yes, perhaps. Now, I don't make me say that cliched sentence now, that all Muslims are not same. I tend to usually be kinder to those who change their opinions because I did so myself. Yeah. More drastically than Shehla Rashid, breaking free from echo chambers can lead to such disillusionment. God dang, your reply to exaspheric might be unfair a little because all people who are leftist, even Hindus, it does not even matter really. Okay, you might argue that at the end of the day, at the back of my mind, Islam is not going around. But when we were leftist, we were anti-Hindu as fuck. As JJ said, evolution of views is respected, change of views is views just because it's profitable is not. Yeah, so we don't really know as for now. We are just guessing from her tones, we are trying to nitpick her words, her statements, and body language to some extent, whatever we can as absolute fucking noobs. That's the extent of her research here, quote unquote. Let's see what else she said, okay? This is a different separate timestamp we are going to start from here. Yeah, Shehla Rashid retweeted my video.
Sided with your sharing of an interview featuring Rais Mattu, the brother of Hizbul terrorist Javed Mattu. And
I would say to that the political process and the judicial process, they are different. Our courts are not determined by what is said on social media or what a politician. Courts are independent. This is not some kangaroo court we are talking about. This is the Indian judiciary. The judiciary and the executive, they are separate. So no, I
your
would say
commendation, Shehla, it coincided with your sharing of an interview featuring Rais Mattu, the brother of Hizbul terrorist Javed Mattu, and Rais displays the Indian national flag in that video, and you posted it, and he says in an interview that he waved the Tiranga because it was part of his heart, telling him that, and there was no pressure on him. Was there any pressure on you? Because you were saying that it is when you did your research, you got to know and you willingly stepped out of that echo chamber of which you were part. Your critics will say that there was pressure on you by the left wing because there are people who will not, from both, from those whose company you have left and from those whose company you refuse to be in. Both of them are critical of you to say that you must have come under pressure. Otherwise, how could you have done this?
There was nobody pressured me. I've been living my life quite peacefully. As I told you, I mean, if there was discrimination, they could have given me a 0 in the interview, or I could have been barred from the process. There is no pressure on me. I'm living my life normally. Yes, there is the question of what I've said, and I'm willing to apologize for it because I relied on second-hand information to say some of these things. Even though I can say a lot of things to contextualize it, that I said good things also about the administration. They were taken out of context, etc. All of that is fine. But as I said, the judicial process and the political process are separate. This is not the People's Republic of China where the judiciary and the executive are one. No, the judicial process will go on separately, and this will go on separately. But it's a question of intellectual honesty. It's also a question that when something good is happening.
Yeah. So intellectual honesty, if so many common people like us, college dropouts like me, random kids like yourselves can have intellectual honesty and change their views, should we really expect that no fucking commie, if they are a famous person, can have intellectual honesty and change their views? Is that really possible? Again, 50% is a chance that she is still a plant, but why can't she? Is it really impossible? Okay, like Barkhadat has been shifting her views gradually. Maybe not shifting, at least she is not that crazily critical or screaming Hindu fascism all the time. Then the tweet of Sanjukta Basu I posted yesterday, she is still harshly critical of BJP and BJP supporters in her other tweets. But on that topic at least, she is absolutely with nationalists here. So why can't really some of them change their views? Call me naive if you want to, but I'm being cautiously optimistic. That's all I'm saying. But I have no qualms with people who are skeptics as of now because of, again, like what we were discussing yesterday, that moderate का भाव कितना है, that depends on radical कितना पागल है. Okay, in every topic, in every discussion, in every debate, in every context, a moderate is respected in direct proportion to the craziness of the radical. Okay, every topic, every issue needs a radical and a moderate. Radical वो है जो कि full पागल हो गया है गुस्से से, और उसके साथ आप बात भी नहीं कर सकते, बैठ नहीं सकते. अगर तो उससे कम पागल कौन है, वो है मॉडरेट. तो उसके साथ हम बैठ के नेगोशिएट कर सकते. सो दैट इज व्हाट वी सी विथ मुस्लिम्स, राइट? if some of them just sing or compose Vande Mataram or just carry the Indian flag in a procession, we are already impressed that oh chalo bhai itna to kar diya. So that's because their radicals have been that strong with their views. So in the same way, I get to now be a moderate here, and I have the privilege of being cautiously optimistic about Shehla Rashid and being 50% optimistic about Shehla Rashid, because I know there are people all around me in the indie wing or in the Indian right wing who are saying no fucking way, we do not touch Shehla Rashid's opinions, take her opinions seriously, or do not touch her with a 10-foot pole. Okay, so there is that. But I was reading that Amartya Sen book where he has mainly said irrelevant things which are not in terms of identity. That book I was talking about, the Bengali translation of Amartya Sen book I bought, the book is called Identity and Violence. So his point is about why bother about identity and identity politics. Okay, the only thing so far I've read in that book which sort of I am in agreement with, and it really I was really happy reading it, that wow, that's a really interesting thing to say. He's saying that all identity is discovered identity, and identity is and everyone should be looking for their identity. Everyone should consciously discover their identity. And of course again that's also kind of irrelevant, because किसके पास भाई काम है, हाँ मेरा आइडेंटिटी क्या है, ऐसा सोच सिर्फ एक वो एकेडमिक कर सकता है, एंड स्पेशली इन लिबरल आर्ट्स. अब नोबेल वोबेल भी है, टेन्योर्ड पोजीशन है, तो वो अपने आइडेंटिटी के बारे में नहीं सोचेगा तो कौन सोचेगा. तो फिर भी since we are still sort of discussing intellectual topics, so why shouldn't we also talk about or think about our identity? So in that tangent I'm saying that people are born with one identity, right? That you are from this country and from this religion. What Amartya Sen is calling for is that why don't you delve deeper and broaden your spectrum and check out other views, other identities, and then even after that, if you feel like the identity you grew up with that was great, fair enough, return to it, but discover it yourself. That's what Amartya Sen is arguing for. And that's for me, when I came out and I tried to really explore different identities, I saw that wow, this works for me.
If good things are happening in Kashmir, what should we do? I mean, you look at the US Congress report recently, there was some report in the US Congress. They are still asking for internet to be restored in Kashmir. Now, you realize how out of touch with reality some of these narratives are. And at the same time, like, when I said good things about Kashmir, of course it wasn't without backlash. I understand that. But it's a question of like backlash versus intellectual honesty. So should I be worried about the backlash, or should I just be honest with myself? There should be some integrity. I mean, there's this black feminist called Bell Hooks. She talks about integrity when there is congruence between your beliefs, thoughts, and action. So
she's quoting a black feminist. Okay, guys, she is absolutely a leftist even now. So that should make you trust her more. We probably a true right winger in India, or especially an economic right winger in India, has absolutely no points of agreement with her. So even if we quote unquote accept her or not be skeptical about her, it does not mean we are in agreement with everything she says. Okay, she has said no such thing. All we are discussing is whether we trust her when she is not being critical of BJP all that much. That is all. Her views are still to be disagreed with if you are a right winger in every sense of the word.
As I said, if I am using DG Yatra, if I am using whatever, UPI, etc., I haven't handled cash in like 2 years, I think. So why should I then continue to, hold these I used to be anti-Aadhaar at one point, but why should I hold that view anymore? When I see that it's working perfectly, so I'll give you an example. I talked about Digi Yatra, right? So in the West, there is an entire body of literature on how the facial recognition systems actually exclude Asian, black minorities, and they only encode white privilege. Have we seen such an instance in India? Is there any instance where, somebody from a certain region of India has been not recognized by Digi Yatra? You tell me if there is any such instance. There isn't, actually, because we don't have those problems. Like, we don't have a deeply rooted racism in our country.
the racism she's talking about, that algorithm ka racism or white supremacy, that is not really intended. That's just how that's based on some statistical fallacies. But yeah, that is not possible in India.
And I think that the present moment, where we see religious conflict, open religious conflict across the West, across the world, there is confrontation on the streets between Jews and Muslims.
Okay, AFN is asking something important. Dude, you said Siraj was a nightmare for Hindu women. Yeah, so he was a nightmare for basically all Hindus, and more importantly, there are stories that after the men of the house have had their meals and all, that's when women of the house, at least that's the case in Bengal, in villages of Bengal, they go for a bath in the local ponds, etc. So Sirajuddaullah's men used to lurk around those ponds to randomly kidnap Bengali Hindu women and take them to their brothels. So when they found an ally in Mir Jafar, people like Jagat Sheth, Bengali businessman of Bahrampur, and even the British East India Company, they all collaborated. Mir Jafar collaborated with these people and decided that fuck Sirajuddaulah.
Christians and Jews, whatever. In India, we don't see that. So I think we should take a moment to celebrate our own, deep-rooted secularism instead of looking for Western models of secularism. And I'll be honest enough to say that I'm one of those people who used to
see only discrimination.
Yes,
okay, for those of you who didn't join yesterday's live stream, this is what I came across even yesterday. That notice she smiles every time she talks about her past views, which is exactly what I also do, because I find it funny. Because it's a matter of any grown-up person talking about their past views on anything. It does not even have to be politics. Maybe when you were young, you used to think Ricky Ponting had a spring on his bat, okay? And now you are not a fucking nut job anymore. But if you are telling someone that story, won't you laugh or won't you smile a little? I think that this is the smile that she is also giving every time she is talking about her past views, which kind of hints me or gives a hint or gives me a vibe that she's basically being truthful and intellectually honest, and that's why she's saying all these things. So this is a very important point here.
Actually exclude Asian, black minorities, and they only encode white privilege. Have we seen such an instance in India? Is there any instance where somebody from a certain region of India has been not recognized by DigiYatra? You tell me if there is any such instance. There isn't, actually, because we don't have those problems. Like, we don't have a deeply...
So she said that we should celebrate our deep-rooted secularism. That is an important sentence to anyway. But she also said, why are we talking about the Western model of secularism? That I don't think I have ever heard a leftist academic say in my life. I don't think any leftist academic even knows that there is a Eastern model of secularism and a Western model of secularism. I don't think any leftist... I haven't met any leftist academic in my life who knows of this distinction. And if she's a BJP plant, if there's a party machinery, PR machinery training her to say pro-BJP things, maybe you could say that now they are sending her Jai Sai Deepak videos. Or maybe she just got curious and checked out this guy called Jai Sai Deepak, because Jai Sai Deepak talks about decoloniality, which is basically a Marxist thing in the West. Here it doesn't have to be really Marxist, but decoloniality as a word, as a concept, as a word, as a theory, was invented by Marxists in the West. But just like Anand Ranganathan says that oxygen word ne hi invent hua to hum saans nahi le rahe the kya? So what Jai Sai Deepak was doing was decoloniality anyway. Then Indu Vishwanathan told him that why don't you check out this theory called decoloniality. So she, being a sociologist, should know about decoloniality. She's a Marxist, obviously. So maybe she got curious and checked out Jai Sai Deepak herself, and then maybe dawned on her that, yeah, what we are talking about here is secularism, but it doesn't have to be the Western model of secularism. And she's making that distinction, and I applaud her for that. And at the end of the day, again, a Kashmiri Muslim woman saying these things is extremely important for India's image outside. Okay, let me check some comments now. Jagat Sheth was a Gujarati Jain, not Hindu. Okay, but in 1757, how much of a difference was that in terms of the word Hindu? Because even up until 80s, Hindu was considered to be Sikh, Jain, Buddhist, everyone is a Hindu. I was thinking of doing a poll on this, that who is a Hindu according to you all? is Hindu specifically a Sanatan Dharmi Ved believer, or is a Hindu anyone who believes in this country, who believes in nationalism of this country, or is Hindu basically a snapshot in time before people who don't want to live in harmony with others arrived? Is that a Hindu? So in that case, would a beef eater be Hindu by your definition? So Sitaram Goel's definition of Hindu is not the same as Rajarshi Nandi's definition of Hindu, or the way we understand the word Hindu today. So I don't think Jagat Seth being a Jain would have mattered in any way. না কোনো সোর্স আছে অন সিরাজ? আই হ্যাভ জাস্ট হার্ড হি স্টপ দুর্গা পূজা ইন সাম এরিয়া, বাকিগুলোর কি এভিডেন্স আছে? আই হার্ড দিস ফ্রম কাঞ্চন গুপ্তা. I don't see any reason to not trust his words. In a podcast with Kushal Mehra only. Check out those, okay? Please read R.C. Majumdar, History of Bengal. Yeah, if Ninar was here, he could have shed some more light on this. দাদা বিষখ্যাত হওয়ার পর ভুলে যা, হ্যাঁ সেই তো. Also read the Catholic Ashrams by Sitaram Goel, all these PDFs, okay? ভাই বলছি ফয়সাল শাহ অমিত শাহের গুপ্ত ছেলে. Eastern one was explained recently by Jayashankar. Dada, Gau Hatya is a red line for Hindus. Yeah. Is Gau Hatya a red line for Sanatan Dharmis or a red line for Hindus? That is my question. Jagat Seth Hindu chilo, Sanatani or badi ekhon jawa jay. Yes, I've been to Jagat Seth's house, but I don't know how to judge it, whether it was Hindu or Jain, whether he was Hindu or Jain. Hindu for me means any idea that is native to Indian subcontinent and believes in idea of dharma and pluralism. Now that dharma is a separate description. Yeah. Even if I hypothetically accept that she is being dishonest for some reason, calling her a BJP plant would be giving the BJP too much credit. that is one big point, guys. Do you think our government is that fucking savvy? Huh? Ekdam train karke. If Democratic Party did this, or if the Republican Party did this, it would be more believable. I don't think BJP can do this. If they can do this, if they can create a plant like Shehla Rashid, they would do many other things as well, man. And unless again we have faith that Narendra Modi is playing 5D 6D chess. Okay, Abhay Agarwal is asking an important question. Dada, what is the Eastern model of secularism and how is it different from the Western model? Long answer. Entire J.S.I. Deepak's book, India, Bharat, Pakistan. Western model of secularism is separation of church and state, that the church will be left to do as it pleases. The state cannot fuck with any religious customs. Our secularism is irreligiosity to a large extent, and not discriminating against someone else as a person or as an institution or as any organization or body. That is secularism as Indians understand it. That is not grammatically correct, but that is the Indian model of secularism. So that's what she's also drawing a distinction on. The point is people are willing to dilute the culture in order to save it. For instance, a long comment. Okay, we'll get to that. Europe, India and limits of secularism. If Gau Hatya is also to be accepted, then what is the last line which disqualify someone or some ideas as Hindu? Gau Hatya will be accepted if Hindu and Sanatan Dharm is not the same thing. Okay, by that tangent I'm saying. Okay, let me now continue with this podcast.
Rooted racism in our country. And I think that the present moment, where we see religious conflict, open religious conflict across the West, across the world, there is confrontation on the streets between Jews and Muslims, between Christians and Jews, whatever. In India, we don't see that. So I think we should take a moment to celebrate our own, deep-rooted secularism instead of looking for Western models of secularism. And I'll be honest enough to say that I'm one of those people who used
and
to
see only discrimination.
See only discrimination, and look at how great the West is. They have such strong statutory protections. Where are those statutory protections now? There is open anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, whatever, you name it. Everything is out there on the streets.
This is also something we discussed yesterday. This is up until here only, I think we discussed last day, which is she acknowledges that there is anti-Semitism going on in the West. Do you think BJP is paying her to talk about anti-Semitism in USA? I don't think so, bhai. So, why is that important? Because as a leftist academic, she would only talk about being pro-Palestine and that the world is against Palestine, everyone is against Palestine, or anyone who is criticizing Jews is not really criticizing Jews, they are just criticizing Israel's occupation. But no, she says there is anti-Semitism going on as well. That is significant.
Where are those strong statutory protections?
Because you had said, you were very critical of some BJP politicians. I have to put it in context because
Sure.
About the anti-Muslim sentiments regarding conversions. And I'm reading from your tweet, you had written sharpest decline in birth rate among Muslims from 1992 to 1915 to 2015. Also, neither migration nor conversions have had any impact on the religious composition of the country. Conversions are rare in India. It shows you how baseless the ruling party's propaganda is. Your stance has changed since then. I'm also going to read out what the
She smiles again when her past views are brought into light.
Minorities Affairs Minister had stated this year. As per the population report, a technical group on population projections 2020, July 2020, the National Commission on Population country's projected population in 2023 stands at 138.82 crore. Okay, according to this, applying the same proportion of 14.2% as was the census in 2011, the projected Muslim population in 2023, because there's no census, it would be 19.75 crore. When you have 19.75 crore Muslims, that's like entire country's population in many places, right?
Yes.
In a Hindu majority country, when you have 19.75 crore Muslims, do you see the kind of discrimination as, say, a New York Times or a Washington Post literally on a weekly basis is putting out?
Yeah.
You don't see a counter narrative happening at all because I guess Indian media is just exhausted. Or Kashmiris or Indian Muslims are exhausted and say, why the hell should we keep saying that, no, there is no discrimination, which you are saying today, that you didn't find any discrimination. Is it right or is it wrong to expect from the Muslim community to speak out like you have spoken out today, that there is no discrimination in, say, getting an ID card, in going to a pub, in going to a movie hall, in sitting for the UPSC exam, right? Is it unfair to ask the Muslim population to speak out like you're speaking out today?
So there are 3 or 4 things here. First of all,
but Smita Prakash really did a great job in this interview. This is, I think, her best podcast so far, interviewing skills wise, because she was being extremely polite as polite as possible, as bhadra as possible, but she was asking the awkward questions, asking the tough questions, but not crossing the limit of making this interview into a debate. Absolutely. So she treaded a very fine line.
Is there communalism in this country? Yeah, sure. Like 70 years back, we were partitioned on a religious basis. So we cannot say that communalism began when BJP came or, it began in 2014. No. We've been partitioned on religious lines and it was a very bloody partition. It was not a pretty sight by all accounts. So yeah, there has been communalism and there will continue to be communalism. At the same time, the problem with the critical orientation is that we only focus on the negatives. We forget to celebrate the positives. Are there positives? Yes. I mean, scholars of secularism like Professor Rajiv Bhargav, they talk about Indian secularism and they compare it with the Western. Like Western secularism is rooted in statutes and all of that.
Significant thing
but
is coming.
Indian secularism, which is more appropriately called pluralism.
And lived experience.
Lived experience.
Now.
That is civilizational in nature.
Yes.
So whatever incidents you see, for example.
This is the most significant thing she has said so far in this podcast, and this is where we ended last night basically. She now acknowledged it, because in the beginning of the podcast we were discussing yesterday that she is bringing out many different tangents on while discussing that why is this the case, why is that the case. She was taking all the usual Marxist talking points that see poverty is the case here, this is the case there, but why is there secularism, etc. And even in terms of criticizing people who do deserve to be criticized, she was never bringing the religion or religious scriptures into question here. And conversely, while crediting India, she was never, obviously, I don't expect her to all of a sudden right now only, to credit Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma as a whole, to credit Sanatan Dharma for the general unity and acceptance, the pluralistic nature of the country that we have. Okay, now she does it. She does not use the word Hinduism or pluralism as of now. Because she is basically citing another scholar. At least she said that this is a civilizational credit. Okay, this is the credit of this civilization that it is such accepting and pluralistic in nature. Or we can call it pluralism, or we can call it secularism as well. But credit for that is not some magic, not some economy, but the civilization itself. Now, we can go obviously a step further and ask the question that what is that civilization? What is the name of that civilization? That, of course, is Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma, which deserves the credit for this situation in the country. And as for the guys discussing biryani, I don't eat biryani because vegan most of the times, and at least the vegetarian 99% of the time. So I have an egg once in a while, that's all. But I used to have biryani with just the boiled egg as well, but now I've stopped even that, because I don't know if I was not noticing it earlier on, or the people who are selling biryani have changed their ways in some ways. I keep finding little pieces of chicken even in the non chicken biryani, so that's why I've had to quit biryani completely.
Example, the partition, there is some riot, there is a phase of mob lynchings. So Professor Rajiv Bhargav and other scholars of Indian secularism, they will say that this is a blip on the radar. Our nation will survive, our plurality will survive, because this is in a much longer tradition, because there is a much longer tradition of pluralism, which is different from Western secularism, if you academically analyze it. So our pluralism is much more civilizational, rooted in nature. And that is, when I talk about the present moment, we see that, we don't see the sort of, I'm sorry to use the phrase, but the proverbial clash of civilizations that we are witnessing across the world right now in this moment. We don't actually see it in India because there is no clash of civilizations. It is one civilization. And Dr. Tanveer Fazal, who is a sociologist, he has pointed this out in one of his papers. That
now, this is getting juicy now. What do you all think, guys? Do you all agree with this? Of course, Shashi Tharoor and like Abhay is saying here that, not Abhay, who said this? Shaptarshi is saying this. Yeah, Shashi Tharoor, Amartya Sen, people like them would basically puke when hearing her say that clash of civilizations is a thing. Amartya Sen writes in that very book that everyone is bothered about clash of civilizations, but you can't really classify people based on their civilizations, etc. But of course, we think there is a clash of civilizations going on. And as for in India, she interestingly says that there is no clash of civilizations going on because it is one civilization. That is a very interesting thing to say. So we will have to read between the lines and analyze that. What is she meaning then? So is she saying that the Hindu-Muslim riots are just a small local thing? It's not really a civilizational clash. In which case, that's probably an interesting view to have. And she's basically saying that therefore, do not conflate every Hindu-Muslim conflict with entire Islam being in threat, or Muslims as a general being in threat from these Hindus of the country. That is probably the distinction she is drawing here, because why else would she say that it's not a clash of civilizations in India? It's one civilization, and there are some conflicts going on inside the civilization. Every civilization will have some conflicts amongst themselves. That is a very uniting message according to me. तो गर्गो is saying clash of civilizations के लिए दूसरे समुदाय को civilization होना पड़ेगा. Are you willing to call it civilization? At least she is saying that we are one civilization.
Muslims in Delhi, during his fieldwork, he found that they reject this classification of minority, and they say that we are the second largest majority. So the first largest majority being Hindus and the second largest majority. So when you point out that, the Muslim population is going to be so and so, it's correct. Actually, the Muslims themselves, as per academic experts, they classify themselves as the second largest majority.
Where 200 million is what President Murmu said.
Yeah.
So how can 200 million be a minority?
Yeah.
Right? It's a country in itself.
Yeah. We've had communalism and we will also have pluralism. See, for the next 100 years to come, even if whoever is claiming right now that, BJP is bad, even if I become the Prime Minister, do you think that communalism will go in one day? It will not go. It will stay for hundreds of years to come. That is a reality because India is...
Okay. These are the, I guess, holes in her argument. That is us talking about her holes in the argument, not based on whether she has taken money from BJP or not, which is that why will communalism remain? Communalism will remain as long as someone says that I cannot live with you. I hate you for who you are. I hate you for not worshipping my God. So that is not what she has as of yet pointed to. I'm not sure if she acknowledges it in her head even. Goddank is saying fuck the trads. I don't think trads would disagree with you on this. Trads would actually agree with you on this. And Goddank is saying egg is ethical food. Cab can be eaten by vegetarians. No life is destroyed. Thus it is okay to eat eggs for Hindu vegetarians. No, it's not ethical. It's maybe the least unethical you could say, but the egg does not fall from the sky, right? We can't get into a veganism debate right now, but the egg comes out from a female hen who spends her life inside a cage, where even though she's a bird who is supposed to be roaming around, walking around, flying around if possible, and for generations and generations that hen is kept in the cages just so that we can consume the egg. So not having eggs would also poke huge losses in the egg industry, sort of a boycott, which basically makes them breed hens to a lesser extent, because anytime a hen is bred, they are going to spend a lifetime only in suffering. So every time you not create extra demand for the hen or for the egg, it's the same thing. That industry is getting affected and less hens are going to be bred.
Humongous country. And yes, there were incidents of mob lynching. There were some unfortunate statements made against Muslims. Yes, do they hurt you as a Muslim? Yeah, they do. But what do we need to do? I mean, as Muslims, what do we need to do? Do we keep focusing and harping on that narrative, on the negatives? I don't think so, because we've lost years doing that. This is our country as much as, it is anyone else's country. And the Home Minister, when he came to Srinagar, he said that to Kashmiris. He said, this is your country. Go live wherever you want, do whatever you want. These were his exact words. He said that this is my country as much as this is yours. And our country right now, I think we should take a moment to acknowledge that we are living through a historically very important phase. We should be lucky that we are in this country and not anywhere else in the world right now, because there is peace, there is development, and we've just overtaken our former colonizer, the United Kingdom, as the 5th largest economy, and we are headed for the spot of the 3rd largest economy. So when you say what should we expect of Muslims, first of all, I should start with myself. I should myself take responsibility. Have I in the past contributed to the victimhood complex of the Muslims? I may have, some of my statements, because I kept harping on those incidents. I ran a campaign against lynching. So have I contributed to that narrative of victimhood? Maybe. So what is my responsibility right now, and what should be my message to the Muslims?
She says maybe, not yes, which also shows that she's probably not taking money from BJP, because she would say, yes, I was the biggest fucking asshole in the world. I said so many things I regret. She's saying maybe. She's still in doubt, because after all, she's a leftist as well.
Muslims of this country. Should it be that भाई यहाँ पे discrimination है, आप कुछ मत करो, आप घर पे बैठ जाओ, पढ़ाई मत करो, compete मत करो, don't come to public life? I don't think so. That should not be my message. My message should be that development is secular. Our country is headed for greater heights. We are literally reaching for the moon and beyond. And at this time, we may need to ignore some noise. There is the election coming up. Someone will say something. We will have to behave as a model minority, which like the Indian American community is called, usually the model minority. We'll have to ignore some of the noise, because that noise is meant to distract us. And we will have to focus on how we can contribute to the development of this great nation.
Why is it that Kashmiris could...
Hai bhai, kuch to cheez lag raha hai, changes. She is... If really she had been an honest person who has actually had a change of mind, she would say exactly these same things. I would expect her to say exactly these same things. Okay, now let me just check some comments, and let me just poke a little bit of holes in your arguments, in the anti-vegan arguments, okay, just for fun. So Here to Learn is saying the eggs which are sold for eating were never going to give birth anyway. Yes, but that does not change the fact that the egg is going to be born inside the hen only, for which the hen will have to suffer. The egg is not going to be made in the laboratory. तो वो जो हेन का ऑपरेशन का जो इंडस्ट्री चल रहा है, उसका जो अत्याचार का इंडस्ट्री चल रहा है, जिस अंडे के वजह से उसको पूरा ज़िंदगी केज में बिताना पड़ेगा, ट्रक में इधर उधर जाना पड़ेगा, इतना स्टफ्ड केजेस में रहना पड़ेगा, साइकिल में कोई उल्टा लटका के ले जाएगा, वो सब चलता ही रहेगा, बिकॉज द एग इज वन डे गोइंग टू कम आउट ऑफ हर बॉडी. It does not matter if the egg is going to go on to become a hen as well. So that's absolutely irrelevant whether the hen was going to become whether the egg was going to become a hen or not. Hinduism is comfortable with diversity of ethnicities and languages, but Abrahamic religions are not. Yeah. Oh, Raja Hemu is also. Oh yeah, you're to Bengali obviously. Deem beach khao ethical na. Yeah. अब बकवास हो रहा है. Godanki saying, by your logic, CSK milk also comes from cow. What is CSK milk? And other dairy animals, the plants are alive as well. Every time you cut them, they scream in pain by releasing chemicals. It has been what studies? Every time you see, some studies have shown, okay, studies showing that plants feel pain. That's absolutely bullshit to counter vegans only. Plants can't feel pain because they don't have a central nervous system. That's as simple as that. Sentience depends on central nervous system. End of story. Normally cows produce plenty more than milk needed for the calf anyway. Even after humans drinking cow milk, there should be enough for the calf, but now they are over milked. Yes. And here to learn another, of course, I agree with you what you said at the end, but in the beginning also, that I'm just pointing it out because usually anti-vegans use this as an argument that they produce so much extra milk anyway, why shouldn't we drink milk? The point is that in the dairy industry, in the factories of Amul, etc., or any big milk producer, or even in local official villages where people breed cows, they don't really wait for the baby cows or calves to drink all the milk, and if anything is left over, can you, dear Gaw Mata, please give me some milk. ऐसा नहीं होता है. Calf को muzzle पहनाया जाता है, okay, so that she can't drink milk. And some people make the calf wear a muzzle made of thorns so that the cow herself, the mother cow herself, kicks away the calf, because an industry, a business cannot survive on the whims of a cow. That let the babies drink first, whatever remains we will take it and sell it. उसके ऊपर कोई तुम्हारा business का bottom line टिकेगा नहीं. तो extra milk is also not an argument.
Not ignore that narrative which came in from Pakistan at that stage, because a lot of it was, the Azadi was fueled by prime ministers, presidents, army chiefs of Pakistan for decades together, that you can never be part of the Indian mainstream. You're a Muslim majority state, you're an Indian Muslim, you don't belong. And that was swallowed hook, line and sinker by Kashmiris. At what point of time, as a Kashmiri, living in Kashmir and outside Kashmir in rest of India, you've lived in both places.
Right.
As a Kashmiri, where do you think that narrative faltered, and where did you see that narrative didn't click anymore in Kashmir?
I was born, in the 90s, and I've read Wajahat Habibullah's book. And it's not just a question of narrative in Kashmir. He has clearly pointed out, being a former senior bureaucrat himself, he has clearly pointed out that there was a mishandling of the Kashmir situation, just to serve the interests of certain people or certain parties. The national interest or the Kashmir interest was sort of held hostage to those things. And the inflection point, everybody in Kashmir will tell you this, I'm sure you've heard it during your visits. The inflection point was really the rigging of the 1987 elections, because Pakistan had been extending arms support 20 years prior. The border was almost porous before that, it wasn't even so fortified. Pakistan had been extending arms support. People didn't take it for 20 years, the Ziaul Haq administration and all of that. But in what changed in 1987? It was a mishandling, it was a rigging of the elections, it was like the total, Wajahat Habibullah has written in his book in great detail, because I wasn't born then, so I don't know. But these were the people who had actually wanted to contest elections. They were the ones who took up arms. They were the ones, people who would have been MLAs otherwise. They crossed the border and they took up arms after that, right? So now the present government, what they are doing right is that they are investing in grassroots democracy. Because if it is a failure of democracy, that was the inflection point in, actually fueling the insurgency. Then what the present government is doing right now in building institutions, in ensuring that there's grassroots democracy, in ensuring that the process, the institutions work for everyone equally without discrimination, I think that is an investment in peace. And I hope I'm right. I hope I'm not speaking too soon. So I would say, touch wood, I'm a little superstitious. But yeah, these things I think will make everyone stakeholders in peace. I think the problem earlier was that there were
that is kind of the Narendra Modi vision as well, no? That making everyone a stakeholder. And they have succeeded to a large extent because they have not been paying everyone to do these things. That why am I a stakeholder in this Hindutva movement all of a sudden? Why is Sanjay Dixit, I'm not comparing myself to Sanjay Dixit, but Sanjay Dixit at least has complained at one point that why doesn't government fund these Hindutva channels? Yes, because they don't fund these Hindutva channels. That is why we feel an extra urge to do a good job. तो मेरा तो good job ज़्यादा हो भी नहीं रहा है, but at least that is why all these Hindutva channels, this entire Hindutva ecosystem that's gradually building up, it's happening on personal efforts and personal beliefs of people. There's nothing more valuable than that, guys. These things can't be funded. You can't be funded to have a view. The original awakening is really happening in houses after houses, and that is how Narendra Modi has been able to make a lot of people stakeholders in the system, which most people weren't up until even a few years back. Okay. So one disclaimer, I have made some disagreements, some agreements about all the things you all are saying on veganism. And of course, we can't get into that because otherwise we will completely shift away from this topic. Because I've been vegan from 2015. I'm not a vegan anymore, of course. I have an egg once in a while, but knowing that I'm doing a wrong thing. Because I had an accident in 2017. For that, I had to basically be at home for years and years. I had 8 surgeries. So for that, I didn't start having eggs for the health reasons. उसमें क्या भोसड़ी के 4 ग्राम protein रहेगा. So all I'm saying is that because I got so much bored with the same food, etc., just for variety, I have eggs once in a while. But before that, before my accident, I didn't need to be non-vegan. So anyway, so all I'm saying is that I have counter arguments for everything that I'm finding wrong in your arguments, but I'm not going to get into that because we are not going to deviate from this topic. Maybe some other day we can do an entirely veganism live stream. But I just want to say something interesting. Here to Learn said a while back that, so basically capitalism spoiled the cow milk system. This is the only last veganism topic I'm going to reply here today. So basically capitalism spoiled the cow milk system as well. My dadu, yes, I agree with this 100%. My dadu had cows and was very respectful and loving for them. Yes. Of course, he didn't sell milk. Yes. It was for family purpose only. Yes. So सनातन धर्म तो यही है ना जो कि सस्टेनेबल है. तो in such a situation, everything would be done in a moderation, everything would be sustainable. So yes, capitalism did fuck it, and for that now you don't have to become a socialist. You just have to tweak capitalism according to your own wish. You have to make capitalism your bitch and boycott things that you don't like so that things change. And who has to boycott? The upper middle class, the upper class. We are not going to go to a rickshaw puller and say stop having milk or stop having tofu or start eating tofu, etc. That's never been a vegan argument. Whatever things you are aware of, whatever injustices you are aware of, boycott those things. For example, we will have to boycott halal things, and of course, in the same way, if you really have, if you have come to a conclusion that yes, these pro-veganism arguments are right, you can start boycotting as well. That's the most we can do. And because of those boycotts, because when companies will see, they are already seeing so many veganism companies are coming up already. There are so many substitute products for so many meat products which were not available 5-6 years back. So let the industrialists, the capitalists understand that there is a demand for an alternative thing, and even for health reasons, many people are becoming toxic, milk intolerant. क्या बोलते हैं? Dairy intolerant. I forgot the term. Lactose intolerant. Yeah. And a lot of vegan health experts argue that humans in general are basically lactose intolerant. You are not understanding when it comes to some people that they are lactose intolerant because their bodies may be handling it किसी भी तरह. मगर बेसिकली सब कोई लैक्टोज इंटॉलरेंट है. किसी के शरीर में ही मिल्क कोई ज़्यादा अच्छा काम नहीं करता है. एंड एज फॉर one other thing, someone said that will someone get physically weak if they go vegetarian? That's all our Indian history shows that we have had vegetarianism and health has not ever mattered. But I'm not sure if a completely pro athlete can be vegetarian or vegan. Vegetarianism still might be possible. I don't know about these Haryanvi wrestlers. Are they fully vegetarian or not? But I'm not sure about top athletes. By top athletes, I mean whoever's the best in their sports, okay? Khabib Nurmagomedov, Virat Kohli. I don't think, I'm not sure, I don't know if their sports, if their performance is possible with just vegan or vegetarian diets, because they have to eat so much and with so much detailed nutrition. तो उतना सब्स्टिट्यूट कहाँ से मिलेगा? तो पूरा दिन क्या बैठ के अब सिर्फ साग सब्जी खाएं. But anyone who's not an athlete can easily do it, okay? And as I've told this story earlier as well, that my upper body strength has always been extra great because I have a pull-up bar at home. So when I went to my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class for the first few weeks, my coach, all my training partners were very surprised because they were on my Facebook friend list. They saw that I post about veganism all the time. So they asked me on their own volition that, aren't you vegan? How are you getting so much upper body strength? Because pull-ups will always give you strength on this lateral muscle portions, and in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu you really need to hold someone for long hours, for a long time at least. And if you catch someone in a grip, they should not be able to pull away this grip. And I used to have great strength in that. So they were surprised by it. So yeah, veganism has never mattered, or vegetarianism also should not matter.
Few stakeholders in the political process, in the electoral or democratic process, whatever you want to call it. And now there are around 30,000 panchayat members, at all levels combined. So there are more stakeholders in peace. And another important thing that the government is doing, I mean, earlier Panch, Sarpanch, they would be routinely attacked by insurgents or infiltrators from Pakistan. They would be routinely, victims of terrorist incidents. But that is not happening now. Now the state is standing behind. The state is actually backing its representatives.
In your years as a student activist, whether in Delhi or when you were in Kashmir, you didn't buy into the Pakistani narrative of separatism?
Pakistan is not even a sort of reference point in, whatever questions I've raised as an Indian citizen. I mean, when I was a kid, before I had any awareness of this conflict, I memorized the Jan Gan Man myself. I learned how to sing it. I would, draw the map of India. I would memorize where every state is. I would draw the national
And
flag.
Kashmir was part of
There was no
India in the
conflict.
map.
There was no conflict. In my diary, I mean, I had written a book-length thing in my 8th grade that, what are the problems facing India, whatever, I used to read these civil services magazines, competition success review and whatnot. So what are the problems in India? Dowry, corruption, whatever. So the national problems were my problems. My problems were not communalism and human rights.
Yeah, this is another reason I think she has come across these new views. One reason is that she had a big ligament surgery. She was offline for 1.5 years. And she is going on preparing for one central government job after the other, for which she has actually had to read some stuff other than her basically leftist manifestos that are taught in sociology classrooms. That's another reason why I think she might have actually had to come across new information and changed her views.
Then, right? So I cared about everything that, any regular XYZ person preparing for civil services would do. So I used to read these competition success review and Yojana and whatever. And I had written a book-length thing about what are the problems facing India and what do we need to do, right? So it was never, there was never the separation in my head until 2010. However, even after 2010, like many people will say, "Arey, ye to separatist hai, ye to anti-national." No, I think of myself as a first-class citizen of this country. I think, as the Honourable Home Minister also just pointed out, that you are as much citizens as I am. And I truly believe that. And so that's why whatever questions I've raised, whatever questions I've asked of the government, of the army, of the institutions, whatever, I've raised those not as a Pakistani, but as a citizen. Yes, a Kashmiri Indian, there was this kind of hyphenated identity of sorts, certainly. But I raised
She smiles when she says that there was a hyphenated identity. Kashmiri Indian, not just Indian or not just Kashmiri Indian. So again, that's kind of telling that she finds those views hilarious or childlike or interesting, to say the least.
Those questioned as an Indian, nevertheless. So, when 370 happened, when abrogation happened, I did not go to the Pakistan Supreme Court or the International Court of Justice. I went to the Supreme Court of India. And when I withdrew my petition, I also withdrew it with the realization that there is no point in, opposing something that is having good results. My activism, did it yield good results? Did it give people their human rights? No. Did the government's actions give people their individual rights, human rights, whatever, dignity? Yeah, it did. So, why should I keep being the sort of agent of chaos? I don't want to be an agent of chaos anymore. Of course, I've gone to a university where, there's a lot of critical orientation that you receive.
JNU, you're talking about.
Yes. And it's a sort of rite of passage for every thinking aware individual, this flirtation with revolutionary politics in their 20s. So, I don't want to undermine it. I've, of course, learned a lot of things from that. I've learned to analyze. I've got the analytical capability to talk about things from that revolutionary phase. But there are good things happening right now. And rationality and objectivity requires us to acknowledge that and not just attack our country, for the sake of it. Just because a certain person is doing it or a certain party is.
Yeah, because after all, just being a hateful person, being angry all the time is not possible for everyone forever. And there's this cool dialogue that almost every movie on some martial artist or boxer or MMA fighter, that dialogue comes up that the first day when they enter the gym, the first thing they say is that I'm tired of being angry all the time. So that's kind of what she's saying, and that's a very common view to have, that kya hoga aise bhai pura din. Why am I so calm when I'm getting so many anti-vegan views? I was not like this in 2015 2016, guys. Right now I would be giving you gali and say kya भोसड़ी के तुझे क्यों एनिमल पसंद नहीं है, एनिमल्स पसंद नहीं है, तू कैसा मादाचोद है, कैसा राक्षस है तू. I would say these things. I'm now calm. I'm not angry all the time about these things anymore. I will be able to convince you about veganism only by my arguments, if at all they come up, or by my own health. My own physique should be a model for you to emulate. My existence should be an aspirational model, that अच्छा ये ऐसा क्या क्या काम कर रहा है जिसकी वजह से ये हो रहा है. So for that I'll have to be fit as fuck myself. That is the path I've taken. So similarly, kind of, Shehla Rashid is saying that why be pissed off all the time about these things?
Is doing it. My greater my greater concern is that I've seen how polarization can damage the fabric of democracy.
Did you go to rallies, or did you sit for when cricket match?
Gontak is saying one interesting thing. I'll just check that out. That I'm not saying this because I'm an atheist. Because if I go to the non-atheist explanation, which is the even the Hindu way of looking at it, every Hindu primary source clearly states that yes, everything is conscious. Even my synthesizer is conscious. But there is higher conscious and lower consciousness, okay? That's based on their past life's actions. तो past life actions के वजह से plants did some bad things for which they are plants now, which is why their consciousness is of a very low level, and they can't experience most things that animals can experience, and animals can't experience most things humans can experience. So even by that logic, it's absolutely okay to eat plants because they can't understand most fucking things. No, I don't do pranayam. I do basic stretching for warm up, for cooling down after my workouts.
Is going on, and Pakistan Zindabad. Did those things happen, and did that cause any conflict if it did happen around you?
No, not really.
You never
I mean,
saw it?
first of all, I mean, I've been a bookworm since childhood, so I was never into sports. But I understand. I mean, I'm not oblivious to the fact that cricket is a highly polarized sport. But yes, that is changing. I mean, now with
You remember that incident when those girls in the hostel,
there were a lot of there have been a lot of such
even
incidents.
treated that they're being held out there in the room and things like that. Okay, I'm going to come to
Smita Prakash is bringing out all of her tweets. I think she has a printout of all her tweets on all these topics that she was going to bring up.
the JNU part, Shehla, because you just brought it up. Two things I want to bring is one is the Shopia incident. I want to bring that also. But let's get out of Kashmir for a bit, a breather. Let's talk about your life in JNU. You know, in that one day, Shehla, the lives of 3 students, which is yours, Omar Khalid and Kanhaiya Kumar, it changed. Tell us about that. We'll come to what happened with Kanhaiya and Omar Khalid later. But do you feel that one protest was a life changer for you? What happened that day? What happened during that protest?
So it was not just a life changer for the 3 of us. The entire university's life, the entire university sort of suffered the consequences of that incident because there was so much backlash against anything to do with JNU. So overnight, from being an elite university, the queen of liberal arts and social sciences, etc., it just went, JNU became a slur. It was almost like a cuss word. And anyone who's not even from JNU but who is perceived to be critical and whatever, the term used to be used against them that अरे ये तो JNU type है या JNU वाले type है इस type के. So JNU actually became a slur, and I've studied at CSSS, which is one of the sociology center in JNU. It is globally one of the top centers in sociology. But yes, those what happened that day. I mean, I wasn't present there physically, but what happened that day, I mean, everyone saw it on TV. And yes, it certainly did a disservice to our university because those kind of slogans were never raised by any student. They were raised for, by people from, we've had protests, we've had a culture of protests ranging, dating back to 1975 and whatnot. There have been protests before that day. There have been protests after that day. No such slogans have been, raised. What are the usual slogans in JNU? Lal
Bharat
Salam.
tere tukde honge.
Yeah, those kind of things. They've never been raised. I mean, the kind of slogans that we raise is Lal Salam and all of those things. Like everyone knows the usual slogans.
The communist slogans.
The communist slogans, yeah, left-leaning, whatever.
And you were a member of the ISA, so those slogans
In fact, I was an elected member of the student union at that time, yeah. And I mean, the event was held by a private group. But that's the thing about JNU. I mean, we don't really stop anyone. I mean, tomorrow if the ABVP decides to hold some protest, the student union has no say. We will not say, no, you will not hold this protest. So yeah, the student union could not have said, please don't do this, because they were well within their rights. And the thing is that we suffer the consequences of our choices, basically. However, the consequences of that protest, they were not faced just by the organizers or the people who raised those slogans, but by the entire university, world-class professors. They had, show cause notices against them, in the protests that ensued and all of that. So yeah, I mean, the scholarships were cut, like the infrastructural funds and everything, because the university was demonized. So yeah, we all suffered the, consequences of that.
Do you feel responsible for that?
No, I do not personally feel responsible for it because it was not my area to either, stop them or anything. I wasn't present there. Even if I were present there and I had asked them to stop it, they would have probably not
stopped. But there were pictures of you sitting with Kanhaiya and Omar Khalid.
No, not on that day, no.
Omar Khalid was one of your, he was your friend.
In the protests that followed, in the protests that followed, we all came together as a university and we started, saying that, it became a Save JNU kind of moment. So it went beyond those slogans, everything, when the student union president was arrested. That is something that had only happened, during the emergency. So people drew parallels to that, and there was this perceived, threat to the university that we sort of fought against. And yes, in that moment, everybody sort of galvanized together. So yeah, I mean, due to that, because the incident was overblown and all of that, those kind of differences vanished, and the entire university, I mean, earlier, frankly, when we would go for protests and all, we would be just begging people, aajo protest mein. We would, struggle to gather 10, 15 people. But what those arrests did is that organizations which did not even have a following of 15 people, now they got an audience of not just the 4,000 students at the university, but the entire country. So yeah, I mean, it gained a life, it snowballed into quite another thing.
Deepika Padukone came for the protest, and that got a lot of attention.
Have you all seen Vad's podcast with Inside JNU Campus? there that they interviewed a great sociology assistant professor guy, really well spoken guy. He was speaking in Hindi the entire time, very clear cut arguments and thought process. Basically, he's a great thinker, at least that guy. So he was saying that after that JNU incident about tukre etc., people decided that किसी भी तरह चलो अरेस्ट हो जाएंगे तो अच्छा नेता बन जाएंगे. That's how the celebrity status of these netas in the JNU campus changed. And that professor was saying that he's a young guy, he hardly like 4 or 5 years older than me. He was saying that ऐसे लोग नेता बनने चले कि जिनको कुछ बात करना नहीं आता है. जॉन लॉक या ह्यूम पे 10-15 मिनट बात करो, बोलेंगे तो हकलाएगा, स्टैमर करेगा, मगर इनको नेता बनना है और ऐसे ही चीज़ें करते फिर रहा है, खामोखा सिर्फ प्रोवोक करते फिर रहा है ताकि कुछ अरेस्ट हो जाए और जी न्यूज़ बुला लेगा, नहीं तो एनडीटीवी बुला लेगा, नहीं तो टाइम्स नाउ बुला लेगा, बस मेरा तो करियर ठीक हो गया और फिर बाद में जाके कांग्रेस ज्वाइन कर लेंगे. वाह.
There was celebrities who came in. Rahul Gandhi came in at that time. Politicians gave support. It became a very big thing. Did you at that point think that this, because you were a revolutionary, you were part of the All India Students Association. It is a far left
I
or
mean,
a left.
Where you see it, yeah, but within JNU we are the parliamentary left, so we are actually in the center.
You're centrist.
But yeah, this kind of nuance is only sort of.
It wasn't a leftist. Wasn't it a radical overthrow the government of the day?
It depends on from where you see it. So
okay,
in JNU,
so tell me where do
there
you
are
see
like
it?
50 shades of left in JNU,
Okay.
And so first you have the ABVP, which is far right, NSUI Center, whatever you want to call them. Then you've got the CPI affiliated AISF, of which Kanhaiya was a part. So they are like nationalist and whatever. So then you've got the CPIM, which is Sitaram Yechuri party. So the student faction associated with that is SFI. And after the Singhu Nandigram thing in Bengal, SFI had become kind of marginalized. So then ISA filled in that vacuum. So earlier only SFI would get elected. And then ISA came in. And ISA was affiliated with this like ML liberation.
She's smiling the entire time while telling this story. Okay, these are like her nice, cute childhood memories when she was a young girl.
Group, but within JNU,
ML mat bolo. It's clear. ML mat boli to Marxist, Leninist.
Yeah.
So फिर अगर left, extreme left नहीं तो क्या है शैला?
So it is the parliamentary left. So parliamentary left is student groups that fight elections.
I like the way you just
to the
said
student
ML. It is Marxist, Leninist.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry, I thought that was evident. So
yeah, here to learn. Yeah, so that is their tangent. If you want to change that tangent, it's going to take another like 2-3 years at least. I was going to say 50 years, but no, on an individual basis, it might take 2-3 years. That entire overturned window of political ideologies, that thing has to shift completely. So yes, these days there are people from communist families who are reading a lot of Gandhi. A lot of Congressy people are saying things like, yes, Marxism was kind of great, because now all of them are in a tight corner. No, because the right wingers are in power. So let the right wingers go out of power. All these ideologies, the spectrum of their positions will change again. Okay, veganism argument is still going on. So RSB, if the lower ones are meant to suffer, then what us who eat them does not harming them put bad karma on us as well. By the way, hunting for food, yeah, I am pro hunting. I have no problems with hunting because it's the best, quickest way for the animal to die. It's the healthiest possible meat you can eat. But there's no hunting culture in India. There are for tribals there is, and for some parts of Haryana, Punjab there is some hunting culture. They hunt little birds and stuff. So yeah. Because there is no suffering. The reason I'm criticizing eggs even is for that, not because eggs are going to go on to become hens and I'm killing that hen in a baby form. No, because the hen who is giving birth to those eggs is their suffering is still going on. Suffering from birth to death, generations after generations after generations, and mind-boggling suffering.
So this is the parliamentary left, so to speak.
No, it's evident probably for my generation,
from,
and for people
JNU,
with JNU or say Jadavpur University or some people in Kerala. For the rest of India, especially those who are, the younger people who are in this,
Yeah, they'll be wondering what is ML.
Yeah, they're not aware of the communist
machine
movement.
learning. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the parliamentary left, CPI CPIM.
So you
ISA,
are the
all of
left.
that.
You were part of the extreme left.
No, parliamentary left is not from where we saw
Okay.
it, definitely.
उससे left कौन था फिर?
So there were other student groups which would not contest elections.
हाँ.
Yeah.
So we were in the student union because we contested the elections
So
to the student union.
contesting election.
So I guess for people who are not from Bengal or the JNU region, or people who don't have leftist friends or relatives, it might be all brand new information for you all. But this is how things work in Bengal, even all in all of Bengal's main universities, presidency, JU, etc. as well. That yes, people who are still have some faith on parliamentary politics, they are the ones at least standing in elections. The others are preparing to go to Jungle Mahal, Dantewada, okay, to become Maoists. So yes, so therefore Congress is far right for them.
Was a test of whether you are sort of parliamentary left or non-parliamentary left.
And she smiles the entire time talking about this. That's what we need to look at.
So
Okay.
parliamentary left is student groups that fight
So
elections.
you didn't reject democracy. That was your
No, not at all. Not at
claim
all.
to be part of the
We are
establishment.
in the center,
You're
yeah.
in the center
Yeah.
just because you were contesting election.
So some like people on the far left, they would call us like what we would describe as the far left. They would call us Sarkari left. So that kind of a thing, yeah.
You were part of the Sarkari left of JNU. Okay. So now, how did the Tukde Tukde term then get associated with your group? And how did it take? How were you impacted because of that? You were called
It
the
got
poster
associated
girl
with
of
the whole university, and I think that media has made. I mean, I would hold the media responsible for repeatedly, repeating that phrase on loop for, I don't know, it has been 7 years or something since then. But they haven't stopped using that term. So I would obviously, I'm not very happy about it. I don't like that categorization because it is a good university, and it's at least it used to be. I mean, now I'm not in touch with the university anymore. I don't go there very often. But yeah, like we used to take pride in the fact that literally an MP's daughter and a peon's son, they study in the same class, they sit on the same bench, and it was really an egalitarian space.
This is what
You
all
heard this,
JNU,
all too,
all JNU people say this. I studied in a Catholic institution, right? I mean,
Now an epic counter is going to come from Smita Prakash. Okay, now she is going to counter it politely and hilariously, but this counter needed to be made, man. I'm fucking tired of this argument from fucking JNU and JU people. Okay, सारा इगलिटेरियन भोसरी के उनके कैंपस में है और बाकी सब जगह पे कैस्टिज्म चल रहा है. ओके, एज इफ आशुतोष कॉलेज में जाओगे तो ब्राह्मण तुमको बोलेगा ए कौन है तू शूद्र, निकल मेरे क्लासरूम से. दे प्रिटेंड लाइक सब इगलिटेरियन सिर्फ लेफ्टिस्ट कैंपस में है, और बिकॉज ऑफ लेफ्टिज्म, लेफ्ट विंग पॉलिटिक्स, वहां पे इसलिए वो इगलिटेरियनिज्म चल रहा है. ओके, स्मिता प्रकाश इज गोइंग टू पुश बैक ऑन दैट. एंड ऑल्सो इंटरेस्टिंगली, check what she just said. Smita Prakash is also from a Christian school, convent background, because some days back someone was saying that absolutely don't send your kids to convent schools, send them to government schools if needed. So I pointed out that I'm from convent, Virat Kohli is from convent, Jesai Deepak is from convent, LK Advani is from convent. Convent schools don't inherently mean that you'll be the biggest fucking asshole in the world, but they have great educational standards for now. तो क्या करें?
I mean, वहाँ पे भी यही होता था. You had somebody whose father was a peon, and you had somebody who's an industrialist daughter.
No, in the sense that
I studied in an army school, and we had a JCO's kid also, and we had a colonel's daughter also. So it didn't matter, and we were sitting in the canteen. कोई JNU कोई अलग ही चीज नहीं थी. I don't know why. It's like I'm saying this about JNU. I'd say the same thing about Stephens, because in Stephens in Delhi, Stephanians also have this view कि हम कोई अलग ही चीज है.
Okay, notice that she's also smiling, laughing along with Smita Prakash. That is important. And also, अचानक नीनर कहाँ से आया? Suddenly नीनर has come with guns blazing. Holy shit.
नहीं है, आप लोग सब एक जैसे हो. I wish anybody would realize कि चश्मा उतारो और देख लो तुम कोई अलग
So if you want me to go into that, I'll try to explain this very quickly.
Sure.
So in our schools, the fee structure is such that the rich kids go to the private schools, or at least even the upper middle class kids will go to the private schools. But people who have absolutely no means, they will go to government schools, right? With the result, what happens is the standard in the private schools is really, really good because the parents will hold the school administration accountable. Sarkari school mein koi...
Yes, that is how capitalism works. That is why government involvement is bad, Shehla. Dr. Rashid.
Standard nahi hai. I mean, forget what the Delhi government is doing a good job in Delhi. That's a separate thing.
Because Delhi is a very small fucking place, okay? My neighborhood cricket field is bigger than Delhi.
But in general, across the country, Sarkari school mein you don't actually have good facilities.
Yeah.
Why is this happening? Because there is a segregation. The rich kids study here, the poor kids study there.
No, that's how governments work. Because they have tenured jobs. Because they can tell you 12 baje ke baad aao, 2 baje ke baad aao. Because their jobs will never go away. They can never be fired.
But when you come to JNU, it has an egalitarian fee structure. By that I mean that the fees are nominal. Which
अरे भाई हर गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज में यही है, आशुतोष कॉलेज में भी यही है.
And it's also an elite university at the same time. So it is both a privilege.
That can be one argument, that why is it an elite university when it is free of cost. That has a long history of things that came into place why JNU, JU and Presidency remained elite universities. But are they really elite in liberal arts? And when we say that they are elite in liberal arts, what does being elite in liberal arts mean in the first place? That is pretty questionable.
Say privilege, but it's a prestige point even for a minister's daughter to go to JNU, right? Because it's a good university, academically speaking.
Okay.
And at the same time, this person can also hold, this minister whose daughter is studying there, he can hold the administration accountable if the academic standards fall, right? So that ensures the fact that rich kids study there. It ensures that the academic standard is good. And at the same time, poor people study there, so the academic standard is good for them as well. Is it without problems? No, we never used to think that JNU is an island, because we used to point out problems with, caste discrimination, etc., etc. There is gender discrimination, there is sexual harassment, etc. So we were very critical of our university as well. So while the tone was celebratory towards JNU, it was also critical. So that's one thing you learn in JNU, to basically criticize everything. And I think that, as I said, is a rite of passage for every aware, thinking individual. There are many people who go to JNU. They don't get affected by the politics
Did you use
at all.
the platform at any point of time for Kashmiri separatism to
No, not for separatism, no.
to eulogize, say, Afzal Guru and to the others?
So I'm surprised that this is still sort of a question, but what happens in JNU is overall all the student groups in JNU, barring say the NSUI, BVP, they will take an anti-death penalty position in general. And it is this sort of like global narrative of abolition of death penalty, because earlier you used to have the death penalty when we didn't have the prison system. So people would be guillotined, or they would be, hanged publicly, etc. But once the prison system developed, so it's a difference between a retributive system of justice.
Yeah, so death penalty is also a thing that I have still kept from my leftist days, that I'm still against death penalty. Where are you guys on death penalty? Because the main argument against death penalty is one that she is giving here, that death penalty came into place because at one point they didn't have any concept of a jail. That's why they were directly killed off. But as civilization progressed, with civilization people's empathy increases, and that's when people decided that no, let's have a place to just keep them away from society, but let's not kill them. Just like veganism, I don't blame my ancestors for not being vegan, etc. But I think veganism is the next step in the evolution of civilization or humanity. But the other important argument against death penalty is that there is no way for anyone to say 100% that any person was a criminal, was actual criminal, because there might be coercion. That person might be trying to save someone else. That might be is always there, and based on, even if there is 1% of might be, does someone have the right to kill someone? Okay, should the state kill someone, especially when we already have them in captivity? We can have them in captivity forever and ever. Then should we go ahead and kill them, because there always might be something else going on? So let me know what do you all think. I haven't given much thought to, I actually keep thinking about it, but I have not done any extra reading on this thing or something. I have not read any books or heard any podcasts on death penalty. So you could say that my death penalty views have not evolved that much in the last 3-4 years, that when all my other views evolved. But that is my view. I have not heard any sufficient counter arguments to these, at least.
And a restorative system of justice. So what people in JNU advocate, and people generally on the left of the spectrum all over the world, they advocate a reformative or a restorative system of justice.
So if Afzal Guru had not been a Kashmiri, you would not have...
No, of course, there was that element. People were, of course, because there were a lot of things. People in Kashmir, they thought that Afzal Guru has been hanged without due process.
No, Kashmir
not without due process. Yes, people in Kashmir did believe that for electoral gains, he was hurriedly executed. While people who had been sentenced before him, they were sort of, they were still on the death row. And this is when it is a
Dr. Manmohan Singh government in power.
Yeah, and they had to face elections, and they took a political...
So she is still in favor of the Afzal Guru protests as well. Okay, that also should show that she is probably not being paid by Narendra Modi. She is just woken up to the fact that BJP is actually left of center on economics. Now, some important comments have come. So Raja Hemu is saying some crimes can't be punished in jail, it is not enough. That is something I agree with, and that made me almost be in favor of death penalty, because what some people say is that they should suffer in jail forever and ever. They should not be killed. That's a lame view to have, because people are not going to be tortured in dungeons and torture chambers in the prison forever and after. Okay, ऐसा नहीं चलता है. वैसे भी हमारा जेल तो कुछ अच्छा नहीं है. हमारा, it's not Norway jails. They will get raped, maybe they will have some problems or the other. But some crimes are so heinous that I don't think that person should have any right to any moment of happiness ever again in their lives. And the basic human tendency is to find happiness and joy in something or the other in your life. So when you are spending 20-30 years, or what's the life sentence these days, 17 years or 18 years, right? तो वो 17-18 सालों में ऐसा बहुत बार होगा कि तुमको कुछ चीज़ों से आनंद आ गया जेल में. And some people really don't deserve a moment of anand ever again. But none of those arguments supersede my concern with death penalty, which is that what if that might be is really the case? Is that person really the convict, or was he coerced into giving a confession, or was he trying to save someone else or something? Okay, even if that person confesses themselves, we don't know where they're coming from. So I think there's no way to ever 100% confirm that a person is the convict, unless we see it on camera, for God's sakes. Then I'm fine with it, maybe. And if then the crime is that heinous as well, and it's caught on camera, then I'm fine with it, because then we have that 100% confirmation. But if it's 99% confirmation, I don't think we can kill someone based on 99% confirmation.
Decision to hang him. That is the general feeling in Kashmir. So yeah, obviously, I mean, see, this is no secret. Identity is a great mobilizing factor in this country. So if somebody from Tamil Nadu is given the death penalty, people in Tamil Nadu will agitate. Identity is,
so it wasn't just the capital punishment. It was also you being a Kashmiri and Afzal Guru being a Muslim.
It's not about
both those things.
There are people, there are student groups who oppose the death penalty per se. So for example, my student group, and the people who organized that event, for example, they also supported, people's right to self-determination, let's just say, right? So there are different motivations for different people. There are different narratives.
Did you support at that time the right for self-determination?
I mean, see, I was a union representative, and one thing that you do as an elected representative, you have to be very conscious of the fact that you do not just represent your party. Yes, my party's position was anti-death penalty. I sort of endorsed that position. But at the same time, you are representing an entire university, and not everyone in the university agrees with self-determination. Many people will say that no, nothing doing in Kashmir is part of India, right? So I was representing everybody, even though, only like my supporters voted for me. But, you have to understand that I, as a union representative, represent all the sections of the university. So no, I think I took a very measured approach. I had to balance out things. I had to also fight back against, the narrative that was being pushed that, JNU mein aisa hota hai, JNU mein waisa. A lot of perverted kind of things were said about the university. I had to battle that. And at the same time, I had to ensure that I'm not taking a position that everybody in the university does not agree with, because that was a moment where I became the spokesperson of the university at the national, even international level. So I did not want to say any such thing that, everybody in the university did not agree with. So we even engaged with the right wing. We even gave space to the right wing to speak at those protests, because we are not a party. Unlike, say, for example, the faction that organized the original protest. They were a party. They are not bound to give everybody representation. But we, as a union, we are bound to give everybody representation. And I made sure that I steered the narrative very effectively and, without causing further chaos at that point. Because there are poor kids who study in the university. I do not have the right to, take it to a point where the university is shut down and these poor kids suffer. Their education gets hampered. No, I think that would be an injustice. And in any case, like, my party did not support that position. So, in JNU, what happens is, like, the student union, they have to, when the student union gets elected, there is a meeting immediately afterwards of the union office bearers, and they come out with a common minimum program of sorts. So with us, there was even a right-wing member, the joint secretary was from the ABVP. So we have to stick to a agenda, which everybody agrees on. These things, these resolutions, they are called. They are voted upon. That, what is your position on Israel-Palestine? What is your position on reservation? What is your position on LGBT movement? So everything under the sun, basically, classic revolutionary politics, university level. So we voted on those resolutions, and there was a commmen minimum, sort of program.
Yeah, me being vegan was one of the first wake-up calls for me that commies are absolutely crazy. Whenever I used to debate any commie about veganism, first thing they used to tell me is that RSS ka dalla. That was basically 6 years before I became a right-winger. But they used to ask me all sorts of positions and stances on other random goddamn topics. I'm talking about, why are you so much in favor of freeing people or against oppression? You are for the voiceless, etc. then why are you celebrating killing animals all the fucking time? And then I have to answer whether I'm in favor of Israel or Palestine. That's how leftists operate. And some funny comments have come again. Neener, what the fuck is he saying? Neener is on a whole different trip today. Okay, let's see if any. Yeah, Norway jail is better than my room as well. Yes. The problem with Norway's jail is that then again that question comes up, the happiness question. It can be done maybe for some theft, etc. But Norway spends so much money on the prisoners. So does a person who has definitely, at least 99% we are sure that they have killed someone, does that person really deserve that much of a second chance? That is also a question. I don't think there's any black and white here, because Norway's argument is that we have the least rates of people returning to crime. क्योंकि जब कोई एक क्राइम फील्ड नेबरहुड से आता है, उसको तो अच्छा फैमिली, अच्छा घर कैसा होता है, अच्छा लाइफस्टाइल, अर्निंग, ऑनेस्टली ये सब भोसरी के उसने कभी देखा ही नहीं है. वो उसको हम दिखा रहे हैं नॉर्वे के प्रिजन में, और उसके वजह से हमारे यहाँ हमारे प्रिजन से जो निकलता है उसमें से सब पूरे दुनिया में सबसे कम परसेंटेज लोग क्राइम में वापस लौटते हैं या फिर जेल में वापस लौटते हैं. सो दे हैव अ सक्सेस रेट ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग. सो what do we want? Do we want to punish the person for doing the bad thing, or the probably the most heinous things, or do we want to recycle the person for our society? That's a very tough question to answer.
That nobody can go beyond, so
that is what you sign up. But then at those protests, there was talk of self-determination and Kashmiri separatism.
Yeah, but
all
even
that
for
did come
self-determination, see, there are various shades of opinion, right? Like we cannot police we are not the ideological police or anything. There are various shades of opinion. But what we need to understand, I mean, human rights, anti-death penalty, all of that, right? That was the position. But what we need to understand that even for self-determination, when you actually go and read the 47-48 resolutions, Pakistan needs to evacuate from POJK first, right?
Yeah.
Only then there will be a plebiscite.
Yeah.
So even if we talk about self-determination, even if we talk about the core, proposals that
how
talk
many
about
Kashmiris were talking this language?
She says a very big spoiler, okay? Most fucking commies who keep saying Azad Kashmir don't know this fucking fact. She did a very good job with this.
Shehla, now after the abrogation, yes.
You mean Kashmiris in the university or Kashmiris?
Kashmiris in outside of Kashmir, Kashmiris in Kashmir.
And by this language, you mean sort of the nuanced language or the blanket language?
No, everybody, whether it was Omar Abdullah's...
She's also pushing back against Smita Prakash now.
See, he would talk about Kashmir, about Pakistan a bit. Farooq would talk a little bit. But look at Mehbooba Mufti, and especially after the abrogation, none of them are talking about that at all. They're not talking about कि हाँ POJK को vacate करो. The Indian line, which was the Indian line, you are talking about it now. But never was that spoken in Kashmir, right?
Certainly, I think that when you are trying to sort of mobilize people, so there is the difference between like theory and ideology is that ideology wants to mobilize. So ideology will try to gloss over some, like theory will be very systematic. Theory will talk about, this factual things and everything. But ideology, because it seeks to mobilize, it will gloss over some
politicians
facts.
will. I get that.
Always happens. So
let's get back to JNU, because otherwise again we'll slip into Kashmir. I wanted, remember when I started, I said I'll talk about Kanhaiya and Umar later. Looking at your tweets, you haven't spoken about Umar Khalid all that much. He was part of that student unrest at that period of time. And he is still incarcerated. What do you have to say to that? Like, why did you not speak out in his favor?
I mean, I did speak out. I mean, I want him to, be released and clear his name, because I believe that he's not a, I mean, he hasn't advocated terrorism. He hasn't advocated, any sort of dangerous ideology that at least I am aware of, right? I have spoken about it. But at, when...
I've forgotten. What is exactly Umar Khalid in jail for? Is he in jail for organizing the 2020 Delhi riots?
When they were arrested, when Kanhaiya and Umar were arrested as students of the university, I, as a union representative, had a much greater responsibility to speak about them, because all said and done, all ideological differences apart, none of us were holding guns, none of us were advocating guns, we were not advocating any, overthrowing of the Indian state or whatever, none of that thing. There were red lines that, even we, I mean, looking from outside, it may not seem such, but even we had our red lines. So at that time, as students of the university, I had a larger responsibility, as the union representative, to speak about them. However, after that, I think all of our lives, they've taken very different turns. Kanhaiya is in Congress, Umar was in the anti-CAA protests and all of that. So our lives have evolved. I mean, I've been forget speaking about anyone else. I've been trying to figure out, what's my place as a citizen in this country.
Why did you not slip into the anti-CAA protest in a more vigorous manner. Did you not see that as something that would propel you to a bigger role in politics?
I had, by then I had taken a leave, I would say, from politics and activism, because it was after the abrogation of Article 370. So for the longest time, I didn't even know much about it, because I was in Kashmir, and there was like a internet ban and all of that. So I didn't know very much. I was studying. I was working on my thesis at that time. But I also I was very deeply, I would say, what should I say? I mean, I don't know whether to say this on camera.
This is an important point. All this adds up, kind of, that she was in Kashmir, internet was gone, and she was preparing for her thesis, okay? At times, during specific times in the year, people who are pursuing a PhD, they get insanely fucking busy, okay? My girlfriend's doing a PhD. I have many sort of best friends, semi-best friends who are PhDs or who are preparing for PhDs. So I have relatives who are sociology PhDs, so I know this part about them. Right now, a friend of mine, almost a brother, is doing a PhD in statistics in Philadelphia. These people, all of a sudden, sometimes become insanely busy, and they are almost gone away from society, okay? So if she was really going through that phase, on top of that, there was no internet in Kashmir, it's pretty believable that she would be basically cut out from the entire world. And the other thing that HP Naveen here asked, I want to answer that. I have a hunch that he's asking that, do you see BJP declassifying Netaji files before this election? If not now, then when? I think either of two. Either before Modi goes out of his tenure, his prime minister tenure in 2029, or that is the final Brahmastra they will use when it needs to be used against Congress. If they are under that much of threat and from Congress, then they might use that. Not now, not when Congress is easily defeatable. Nino is saying he did some provocative speech in Delhi riots and then got UAPA, and I think some WhatsApp chats got leaked that he was asking people to gather or something. I don't remember exactly. Bhai, Nupur Sharma and Kapil Sharma ke podcast dekho. I think he's involved in Delhi riot, not just provocative statement. Yeah, semi-best friend and almost brother.
I was going through a personal health crisis. I had a ligament injury, and I was also sort of contemplating. I mean, I took a step back because abrogation happened. Our whatever brief flirtation with politics ended. That internship with politics, that just
with
ended.
Shah Faisal and the
yeah, that ended. And I just took a moment to slow down and sit down and think, okay, where do we go from here? What do we do? What do I personally, what do I believe in anymore? What is my ideology? So I had to deal with those, what should I say, existential questions almost, where I had to define what I stand for. And it has taken a whole 3 years for me to, come out of my cocoon. So I went into my own sort of cocoon where I was dealing with mental health issues. My khala was very unwell at that time. My youngest khala, I mean, she passed away in 2020. She was very unwell.
ये जो कोकून का बात हो रहा है, यही कोकून में ही जाके भी जो भी हम लेफ्टिस्ट लिबरल्स ने थोड़ा इंडिक विंग या राइट विंग की तरफ टर्न लिया है, वो कभी ना कभी हम भी कोकून में ही गए थे, ओके? वी लॉट ऑफ अस डिड दैट ड्यूरिंग द कोरोना. She did it during when Kashmir was shut down and she was focusing on her thesis. So this kind of checks out.
Well, she had a botched up surgery, which left her semi-paralyzed. So I was in therapy at that time already. And, I was dealing with these issues of guilt that happen, like when a family member falls ill, then you deal with this guilt, could I have done more? Was I absent? Was I not there enough? So I've dealt with a whole bunch of complex emotions.
And your father saying that you were getting money from terror organizations.
That's another thing, yeah. I mean, when we decided to stand up to him finally, you are generally afraid of your father. Generally, any father, even a gentle father. Yeah,
this is also a tricky topic we are going to get into now. Wait, let me just answer Rashid Yadav. He's saying that is ligament injury health crisis. Now, in most cases it is not. It's a very small surgery. But I have seen in cases of some MMA athletes at least that their ligament tore in such a place or in such a way that the surgery was not very easy. The recovery process was very long. So those things do happen. So I wonder where her ligament tore. I don't know where it tore. So if it was in some complex portion of the body, or if she fell down really hard and for that she tore the ligament, some serious things can happen. But you see her physique is also a telling. She is basically a very frail ectomorph person. So such a person falling down and having a serious ligament injury might really be a long sustaining recovery process.
Children will be afraid of their father. But when It's a violent father. You are even more afraid of him. So for the longest time, we did not stand up for our mother because we couldn't. We were so afraid. She was so afraid. And when we did finally, he decided to seek vendetta in this very novel way. I think he created a world record of sorts by going on TV and saying those things. So yeah, I was
Did he
dealing with
give
that
any
as well.
proof of you getting funding?
There isn't any proof. I mean, we weren't getting any funding. I mean, yeah, maybe if we had gotten to the election stage, maybe then we would have to take funding from, I don't know, corporates or whatever it was. But we never got to that stage. I mean, we were in politics for 3 months. So we did not need any funding.
Also,
we didn't get any
NGO
funding.
that he said that
yeah, that is all baseless. I mean, that's just...
Did you present proof in court that you were not?
No, we were investigated. We were investigated by the police, CID and whatever number of agencies there are. And we cooperated with them and we gave them all of this. See, the thing is, I mean, I knew that he was going to do this. He had threatened me several times. Whenever we would stand up to him, whenever we would tell him, do not abuse our mother, do not beat her up, he would say that, I would go to the press, I will go to Z Media and whatever. So at one point, Smita, I had to make a choice between my mother's life and my reputation. Which one is bigger? So for the longest time, I kept prioritizing my reputation that, if we take some measure against him, if we go to the court, he will do this. We were aware of it. But it became a question of my mother's life and safety versus my reputation. So I decided to risk my reputation and save my mother's life. And she deserves justice. So she does not deserve, after taking care of everyone, she's taken care of my father her entire life. She's taken care of us. She's taken care of my Khala. She was a full-time caretaker for my Khala who was, when she was paralyzed. She's taken care of our grandmother right now. So after taking care of everybody, after serving this government honestly, she's been one of the most honest persons in public life that I know of. She doesn't deserve to get beaten up and abused, after retirement. She doesn't deserve all of this violence after taking care of everybody. So I think we had to make that choice.
This was the question put to you. And amplify their voices to terrorize others. How did you come to know it? To which you replied in that interview, I got this from someone who came to Delhi from Shopian. I know the exact details of the place where this happened, but I do not want to. You mentioned the Shopian incident in that. I'm going just to read out. There was this interview and you were asked about that. And in a Twitter thread, you alleged that the Indian Army tortured people in Shopian. This was the question put to you. And amplify their voices to terrorize others. How did you come to know it? To which you replied in that interview, I got this from someone who came to Delhi from Shopian. I know the exact details of the place.
Rashid, a serious ligament injury for a normal person might become a serious situation. For her, it might become because she lives in a mountainous region after all, no? So her fall might have been a little more significant. Brother, what about protein and B12? No hard feelings. So for protein, if you're not an athlete, you need about 34-35 grams of protein per day if you're not really working out. Okay, so that 32, 35, 33 gram protein is pretty easily you can get it from different I don't know, leafy vegetables and dal, etc. And if you are an athlete or if you work out, you'll have to take protein supplements. Okay, there's no way around it. If you are really an athlete, you can't have faith just on some dead fucking animals who were tortured all their lives. There's not enough protein in a chicken. Yeah, chicken breast has some significant protein, but extracted vegan protein is much better. At least pea protein is, according to me. I don't follow my advice and fall sick and so that I get sued. But I take pea protein because I do work out. If I didn't work out, I would be happy with 30 gram protein. And pea protein has about some have 20 gram protein per scoop, some have 25 gram protein in a 30 gram scoop. And as for B12, one thing that most non-vegans or anti-vegans don't know is that everyone needs B12 supplements. Okay, because B12, for some reason, some doctors say this, and some anti-vegans believe this, that non-vegans are absolutely full of B12 in their food. No, you're absolutely not. Everyone is B12 deficient because of the destruction of the topsoil that has happened, and because we clean our vegetables in such a way that no B12 remains in any vegetables, not in any animals. Earlier, animals also used to get some B12 because they used to eat the grass or hay. Now the topsoil does not have any B12 left, so any animal that does have B12, it's usually advertised in the packaging, at least in the USA, that high on B12, beef with extra B12. In that case, the animal has been injected with B12. So even that animal needs a B12 supplement. तो B12 चाहिए तो तुमको चेक कराना चाहिए कि B12 deficiency है कि नहीं. अगर है तो तुमको supplement ही लेना पड़ेगा. It's like D3. Okay, if you don't go out much, you will need D3, regardless of what the fuck you eat. Regardless of what you eat, I think everyone should take B12 supplements. use soya. Yeah, soya is second best after pea protein according to me, because pea protein, the protein is extracted mechanically, whereas in case of soy protein, it's chemically extracted protein. Okay, so you'll have to consume that extra little bit of chemical always, which is sort of the part of the processing procedure. Okay, but pea protein is mechanically extracted. Best is, I think, hemp protein, but it's too costly in India because hemp is illegal everywhere except Uttarakhand.
Where this happened, but I do not want to give them away in case the state agency may go there. Time will prove who's right and who's wrong. I'm not lying. If anything, this should make the government more alert to avoid such abuse of human rights. Now, you've been to Kashmir after that. Did you go to Shopian? Did you check for yourself? The reason I'm asking this is that many Kashmiris talk about gang rapes done by the army. It becomes like an urban legend. And then generations of people believe in that, that this is what happened. I'm not going to go into incident by incident, but this is what happened. So when this happened, there was police case filed against you and for that. Did you go back to Shopian? Did you check?
No, I'll tell you honestly. At that time, because no information was coming out of Kashmir, I had somehow taken this upon myself to bring out the real information from Kashmir. And in that thread in question, which caused the FIR and all of that, I have said good things also about the administration, which the administration was doing. But of course, there's a study done. There's a study on Twitter, and it has found that, I forget what the names of the authors, but it has found that negative tweets get more traction than positive tweets. So the positive thing will never get more traction. It will get. However, as I see it now, I don't think it was my place to put out that information. I regret putting out that information because no, I did not verify it myself. I believe that the person who was telling me, he wasn't telling it to me so that I will put it on social media. No, it was my decision to publish. So the police even asked me, who is this person who has told you? I decided not to throw them under the bus because it was my decision to publish. And I understand that it was an ill-considered decision to publish it.
A lot of the foreign media who didn't go at that time to Kashmir, even national media couldn't go because of the abrogation process which was going on, revocation of the special status. Abrogation is a wrong word. But the special status, and there was a clampdown for a year almost. So the foreign media was basing its reportage on what your voices were saying. A lot
some
of
media channels actually went there. I think New York Times did a report
one
on
or
this.
two
And
probably.
They did a report. I did not.
New York Times went there and they just talked to one or two people who were there. They knew they were going to say these particular things in these sort of ways and clicked some one or two photographs and came back. They did not do any ground level research or anything in Kashmir. So again, some interesting comments have come. So yeah, Godank, what did Yanamir say about Diwali? Sanjay Dixit also seemed pretty pissed off about her. I don't know what she said. Okay, HP Naveen is asking why most students coming out of ICSE schools and top degree colleges are mostly left-wing. It's my personal observation. No, you're not wrong, obviously. But you see, academia, at least liberal arts academia in general, is left-wing all around the world. So if someone goes on pursuing liberal arts, does graduation, masters, PhD, if someone is good in studies in India, they will be leftist. It has to be, because the syllabus is entirely leftist. You can't go around it. Okay, another interesting comment had come. Yeah, so what RSB is talking about, who was talking about soya? Yeah, soy protein. Yeah, so AFIN was saying that soya. Some people have this fear that soy protein or eating any soy product will lead to having man boobs, which is called gynecomastia. That I'm not exactly sure on, because I have heard pretty trustable sources, both against and for, say both sides of the story. Okay, I suspect it might be an American right-wing mythology that you are a soy boy, because they look down upon vegetarian and veganism from an epistemic standpoint, right? Because these are all non-Abrahamic things. You're a good Christian. You must hunt. You must eat meat. Okay, red meat nahi khayenge to bhosri ke kya hoga zindagi mein. So for those reasons, I think they came up with this idea that vegetarians are pretty weak, and vegans especially, are basically California liberals. They are fucking physically weak. Okay, they have never done a push-up in their lives. So they might have done 2 + 2 = 4 and therefore concluded that since these people eat soy, therefore these are such pussy fucking men. Okay, but it might not be directly because of the soy. Now, what I have read studies from both sides is that soy protein or soybeans, they have something called phytoestrogen. So some people I've heard say, some people I trust have said that phytoestrogen acts exactly like normal women estrogen, and therefore might cause gynecomastia, and some people whom I equally trust have said that no, phytoestrogen does not act like estrogen. It in fact acts like acts as the opposite of the female estrogen. I mean the estrogen that we have less in our body and women have more in their bodies. And that phytoestrogen that you get from soy in fact helps you burn some estrogen, which causes you to have fat in your lower stomach. So I'm divided on this, so I avoid it as much as possible, but I have it without any fear also, because I have not found any conclusive evidence of soy protein leading to gynecomastia or extra estrogen in your bodies. Vegetable oil, I think, does raise your estrogen.
And I regret putting out that information because I think that it was used by a lot of anti-India forces here and abroad. And yeah, it is, these things become truisms of sorts, as you said.
Yeah.
This, army rapes in Kashmir, it's a truism, and, everybody believes it to be true, or everybody keeps repeating it, that kind of a thing. But I did not check it myself, and I realized that it wasn't my place to put it out. So yeah, I regret putting out those tweets.
So now that you've taken the...
Yeah, exactly what Ninar is saying. Haryanvis are mainly, especially the wrestlers, are mainly vegetarians. I don't know if the top level ones are vegetarian. I'm not sure if the Fogarts or Punia, if they are vegetarians, I'm not sure. And as for some people who were saying that Virat Kohli is vegan, I don't think so. Okay, that was a myth mainly propagated, made viral by vegans of India only, because they wanted to show that, see, you can be a great athlete even by being vegan. I don't think that is the case, because in his interview with Gaurav Kapoor, in his podcast with Gaurav Kapoor called Breakfast with Champions, he had explicitly said that he did not even use the word vegan. You could see from you could notice the names of the foods. He was saying that yeah, he's vegan most of the times, but sometimes his trainer says that now let's get back to some muscle development, and that's when he gets back to some red meat, okay, to increase muscle mass. So he's not vegan, at least when the Gaurav Kapoor podcast happened. After that, I don't know where he explicitly said that he has gone vegan. But red meat is in one way at least is kind of healthier than chicken, etc., because by default red meat, I mean goat meat at least, mutton in India is free range, because the goats are always moving around here and there and having fun, okay, eating grass, etc. But chicken is always from a poultry, unless you are having free range chicken. But the problem with mutton is that it raises your IGF-1 levels, so if you do have cancer cells in your body, it will increase your chances of dying from cancer because of that. But if you don't have cancer cells, which there's no way to know that you have potential cancer cells. So if you don't have cancer cells, you won't have much of a problem with mutton. But if you do have, and later on you end up finding out that you do have cancer cells and you are a big mutton eater, then you are fucked.
You realize, and you have even praised the Home Minister, you've praised the Prime Minister, you've praised the Indian Army, which is literally something that Kashmiris didn't do for decades together. You've praised, and it's wrong for me to say Kashmiris as...
Okay, tell me about Yanamir. When did Yanamir abuse Hindus? This is interesting. Is this from long back and now she has changed her views, or this is recent? What I think Kohli said is he's a vegan except for eggs. Okay, but then after the Gaurav Kapoor interview, that's why goat is offered to Kalima and not chicken. Yeah, I'm not against Pashu Bali, because in an ideal world maybe, but everyone's increasing their food intake, and halal is not banned, Eid sacrifices are not banned. Why ban just the Hindu festivals? So
as a whole, a certain section of Kashmir. Yeah, now when you do that, you lose friends, you lose a certain section for whom you were a heroine of sorts. Do you regret that?
I think that, as I said, some of the things that I've said, they've been used by anti-India forces in India and abroad for furthering a certain narrative. So I think it's also my duty. I'm speaking from a sense of duty. I'm not in politics anymore. I've just been selected as an assistant professor. I've been studying with my head down for the last 3 years. So now that I'm not in politics anymore, I believe that I am at a much more freedom to say what I want. And, I want to point out one thing. I have topped every exam since childhood that I've appeared in, okay? I got into campus placement, I was not discriminated against in campus placement. And I've never personally faced any discrimination from the army or anything, right? But this
is actually an important point, guys. Even in the black and white, black versus white narratives of USA, more often than not, you will find people saying, at least black people saying that, I have never personally faced racism, but there is racism every fucking where. But Indians will always say that, yes, we have faced racism. And from whom? That's a mystery. Priyanka Chopra does not say anymore, but Vivek Ramaswamy did say he has faced racism from blacks. My semi-brother who is doing a PhD in Philadelphia, he has faced racism from blacks. I have faced racism from white-skinned Bengalis and Nepalis, who always people, everyone, all commies in India think usually Northeasterners are so much victims of racism, etc. Yeah, no, go to Northeast. Let's see some comments. Yeah, Rashid Yadav is saying that Pashubali is important. Well, important for that particular sect of Shaktism or Tantra, whoever wants to. I don't think it's important for everyone. Is she implying she had less freedom of speech in JNU? Okay, Nina is saying he buys always free range products. Yeah, free range products ethically are of course better, and health, in terms of health, yeah, they are way better, way fucking better.
Certain narrative that goes around that army is like this or army is like that. You hear stories, and yeah, I mean there may have been some incidents, during the when the insurgency was at peak, etc. Yeah, you hear certain things, then you form a certain narrative, and you feel discriminated not because discrimination has happened against you, but because there is a narrative, which is why now I feel it is my duty as a youngster, as somebody, a lot of people also look up to me academically. They seek advice from me. How did you get into all these institutions? How did you clear this exam? I was even giving, coaching for CSAT. So earlier this summer. So I feel it is my duty to put out the correct narrative. Because I have alienated myself from the progress of this country. How? 10 years ago, I was placed in a corporate company, and I left that, because I was moved by the human rights and everything. Today, I could have been like my classmates. They are in senior leadership positions in corporate companies. What did I do?
She is noticing that, yeah, she does have some regrets also kind of regrets. It might not be fair for us to declare that, yeah, she's regretting it, but she does kind of have a at least she felt the need to point this out, that all my friends have taken corporate jobs and have succeeded way more in their lives. I have not. And because of that, at least among the many other reasons, I am now taking the conscious decision to not play into the victimhood narrative all the fucking time. And that makes me believe her in a way. So all I'm saying is that if it is really the case that she is just an honest person and she really just wants to get away from victimhood narratives, and she's a role model for many future students from Kashmir as well, this is good for the country. So where we will have to counter her anyway is on her leftist views on everything that she has. तो वो तो चलते ही रहेगा. But as for all the time saying that BJP is fascist, if she is stopping that, at least that victimhood narrative going away from Muslims and future students from Kashmir, that's also a big step.
I mean, like this whole burden of, sort of being revolutionary comes onto Kashmiris or Muslims or whatever, because we feel this perceived sense of injustice. There was no sense of injustice. I got placed along with the others. And I was doing...
She's smiling again when she's talking about her silly views when she was young, and she makes the very important distinction. It was a perceived sense of injustice. It was not actual injustice.
Pretty well. But because of this second-hand narrative of injustice or this second-hand sense of victimization that was pushed onto me, I left all of it. I alienated myself from, the progress of this country, which is becoming a digital superpower of sorts right now. I don't want others to do the same. And that's the only reason I'm speaking out. I mean, tomorrow I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be teaching sociology in a college. What should be my message to the youth? My message should not be that, bhai, yahan India mein bahut discrimination, aap ghar pe baith jao, hamara kuch nahi.
This is also polar opposite of what sociologists are teaching in the classrooms of Europe and USA, guys. This is a significant development, that for the reasons that I want to defund sociology, if at least this is also a significant one step, at least one single significant step against the reasons why I want to defund sociology. If this is the case and this is the trajectory, we wouldn't need to defund sociology. See, guys, do you have friends in the content writing sector or in the advertisement sector? Haven't you noticed that most commies who hated capitalism and businesses, commerce, etc. all their lives, most of them are now professionals in the ad industry? That's a huge evil terrible joke that fate and destiny and life has played on them, that whatever you hate the most, you are going to end up having to do that job. Like I used to hate office cubicles, then I worked in an office, but it was fun. I worked in a fun office. But in the same way, just like an office needs artists and creative people to sell their product, we at the end of the day do need liberal arts departments to sell our brand India, okay? Think of India as a company, India as a startup, the entire country as a startup, and liberal arts has to be our advertisement agency, advertisement wing. So for that we will need sociology. But the problem is that sociology usually sells victimhood narratives, and she's actively pointing that problem out. She's not going into the other things of other problems of sociology, which I according to me as a right winger or an economic right winger, I think is a problem. But at least this one, we all are in agreement that sociology should not propagate just victimhood narratives. Even if she's getting paid by BJP to do this, guys, this is very, very important and significant and very fruitful for India.
It shouldn't be like that. There are so many Kashmiris, there are so many Muslims who are doing so well. They are pilots, they are engineers, they are doing so well, in India, abroad, etc. The message that I want to send out is that rely on your own experiences. What the power of narrative does is that it negates your own experiences. It negates your lived experiences because you believe in a certain narrative and you feel discriminated. Yes, they may have. I'm not saying that there is all is hunky-dory in this country. Of course, it's a post-colonial South Asian country. Yeah, there are many problems in this country. Will there be problems? Yeah, there will be 100 problems. But what do we do? Do we harp on the problems, or do we contribute? Do we find ways of contributing to the progress of this country? I think that we should do the latter, and that should be my message to the people. Right now, we see a really well-intentioned administration, the Honorable Prime Minister. He doesn't care about criticism. He has taken so many radical decisions, even at the cost of his personal popularity. He doesn't care about criticism. He's a selfless man who is working for the national interest. You look at the Honorable Home Minister. He has ensured peace in Kashmir, regardless of what anyone criticized at that time. He has ensured peace and security in Kashmir. Kashmiri mothers, Kashmiri parents, they will be grateful to him for generations because their boys have been saved. You and I, we can say whatever we want. But, the mother who loses a child, only she knows how painful that is. So I think Kashmiri mothers are going to, praise the Home Minister for, generations to come for, ensuring. And I hope that this peace lasts. I hope that, this kind of present situation continues to prevail. The LG administration, as I said, they've ensured peace, they've ensured accountability, they've ensured transparency. When I was going for this sociology entrance exam, this assistant professor exam, so a candidate came up to me and he said कि आपने last time दिया था exam जब ये हुआ था, and I said कि कब हुआ था last time? So he said 2016. So since 2016, now recruitments are happening. Of course, it will have a positive impact.
You brought this thing of Kashmiri mothers. We had General Dhillon out here, who was in Kashmir. You even praised the Chinar Corps. He was in the Chinar Corps at that time. And he said that one of the things they did was speak with Kashmiri mothers and ask Kashmiri mothers whose sons have gone and become terrorists, become separatists, unko wapas lane ke liye, speak to them. Very potent force, a potent voice. Yeah. Everybody knows about Kashmiri mothers. Yeah. They're legendary figures, right? So, but I was just watching a couple of videos which came out from Palestine, and there are women and there are men who've lost loved ones, and they say that there are various voices which are coming out, but I've heard voices now. This battle, इंतफादा अलग बात थी, पर अभी मैं सुन रही हूँ वहाँ कह रहे हैं कि एक भाई चला गया कोई बात नहीं. It's part of the jihad. This narrative was also there in Kashmir, that I have lost a son, I will give 2 more sons to the jihad. Did you hear that voice when you were?
No, I haven't heard it, and certainly one thing that has been that should be crystal clear right now.
Okay, she's going to get into an important answer. Before that, let me again answer some funny questions here. So, RSB is saying, damn, that's something I didn't expect from her. Are you talking about Yana Mir? I guess so. So, Ninad is saying, where on earth do you find people studying sociology these days? That's a Bengali thing, guys. Uske liye tumko Kolkata aana padega. Every day, everybody I see is doing engineering or rare law or CS. No. In Bengal, it's all liberal arts. नहीं तो कौन बचाएगा society को? To my parents and all others, I knew anything in humanities is equal to future as unemployment and unemployed, low-paid problem maker. Most humanities shouldn't be treated that way, but sociology deserves it at least. Voting patterns say otherwise. Okay, ki call Australia. Oh my God, I don't think I'll be able to sleep tonight because of how excited I am because of the finals tomorrow. Okay, one other thing I wanted to address from the comments is that. Yeah, so HP Naveen was asking, can Waqf board be removed by passing a bill in Lok Sabha? In theory तो yes, तो हमारे देश में तो theory में काम नहीं होता है. बिल पास हो जाएगा, फिर कोई राइट करने लग जाएगा. राइट में आप लाठी चलाएंगे, गोली चलाएंगे या राइट को मान लेंगे, वो सब तो प्रॉब्लम है. बट that needs to go as soon as possible. So, see, one thing that I don't think people who are on the individuality side, people like Amartya Sen, or even people like Shashi Tharoor, or even Kushal Mehra, who I don't understand how he is against decoloniality, even though he agrees with 90% on decoloniality issues. But what a lot of these, especially sly people like Amartya Sen, who are very much identitarian when it comes to talking in favor of Muslims or criticizing Brahmins. इनको आइडेंटिटी पॉलिटिक्स नहीं चाहिए only when Hindus are talking about Hindu rights. But anyway, even then, what is the difference between us and woke nut jobs? So what is the difference between me and a social justice warrior? If someone's talking about black rights and oppression of blacks in the hands of Hindus, and we are talking about Hindu rights and oppression and torture in the hands of non-Hindus, are we the same then? No, we are not. And this is why. The reason is they are only talking about historical injustices. When someone is going on bringing up ब्राह्मण ने किया था, यहाँ पे ये ब्राह्मण की वजह से हुआ है. भोसरी के ब्राह्मण का population है 4.3%, okay? And when blacks are talking about oppression, etc., all that is about what happened in the 60s or what happened 200 years ago. The entire continent of Africa, what they are saying we had faced colonization, इसलिए भोसरी के अब हम अभी भी सिविल वॉर करते फिर रहे और ब्लैक ट्राइब को मार रहा है बिकॉज colonization हुआ था 200 साल पहले. तो at least I think most Hindutva people are not talking about Hindutva because of past injustices. I am not talking about Hindu rights because of past injustices, okay? Of course, we didn't even know so much injustice happened. That's a fair enough argument. We should know that these things happened. Fair enough. But thus far and no further. I have no problem with any Muslim because 10 generations back, their ancestor might have beaten up my ancestor. No. I have a problem because Waqf board exists today. Because Places of Worship Act exists today. Because today we have halal. Because today we have Muslim areas where you can't go for Ram Navami, okay? I don't give a shit about historical injustices. All I care about historical injustices is that we should know that there happened some historical injustice. But I'm not opposing these things because of the injustice that happened 500 years back. No, because of the things that are happening today. And there we are absolutely different from any goddamn minority anywhere in the world. All the minorities everywhere mostly crib about in historical injustices. We are a majority who is actually successful in every field, and mostly Brahmins who beat reservation and even then are successful. And we are not talking about past injustices. We are talking about what's going on today. If Waqf board goes away, if there are no such things as Muslim neighborhoods, if Ram Navami can happen anywhere and everywhere, if Azan is not blown into my ears all the time, if you can, if you don't feel any threat of getting killed by a pattharbaz anywhere in the country, I will have no reason to go on with this YouTube channel and talk about these things. Maybe we will still discuss philosophy and Hindu philosophy, but I won't be that sort of a staunch vocal proponent of Hindutva politically. So that's our difference between us and social justice warriors, okay?
Is that Kashmir is not Gaza. There is a, Gaza is walled off.
Okay. Sorry. I'll interrupt once more because Ninad has brought out a very important point which some American right-wingers are talking about, and I have a counter for that, which is he's saying that, Dada, you should check out recent Elon Musk's anti-decoloniality points in perspective of Palestine. Yes. See, okay, let me check the next point as well. I feel Elon Musk's point would resonate with AIM and Kushal Mehra types, but we need to draw a distinction of what JSD means in comparison with decoloniality in India versus Palestine. Absolutely, you are bang on that. But also, they are not still talking about decoloniality, which is a very distinct theory because it's all about mental decolonization, okay? What they are talking about is general decolonization. And when people in Gaza talk about decolonization, is about kicking away or killing Israelis, okay? If black Americans or Native Americans today start talking about decolonization, they are talking about kicking out white people from the country. When we are talking about decoloniality, we are talking about the mental game first of all, but even if we are talking about decolonizing our minds, we are not talking about kicking out Muslims, and there are no white people to kick out. So our context is entirely different. So it does not matter how much all our favorite sort of American right-winger podcast hosts or capitalists are against the idea of decolonization in any way. It does not matter because their arguments are absolutely irrelevant in the Indian context.
From Israel, there is they need work permits. Do we need work permits to work in India? No. We are full citizens of the country. We can work anywhere we want. We can take property anywhere we want. There are some schemes. There is, for example, PM Kisan Nidhi Samman Yojana and PM Mudra Yojana. More than 1/3 of the beneficiaries are Muslims, right? More than 1/3. Like our population percentage, maybe whatever 14-17%, but more than 33% of the beneficiaries are Muslims. So there is no systematic discrimination. There is no exclusion of Muslims from the system. Yeah.
This is absolutely opposite of what sociology classrooms are teaching everywhere in every country, okay? Everyone is being told that there is some systemic problem or discrimination going on in every country mysteriously, okay? And she's saying the absolute opposite, being an assistant sociology professor.
अब ये होगा, कोई appeasement नहीं होगा. There won't be any special treatment just because you're a Muslim. You cannot expect that. But you will also not be discriminated against, if you are really capable. So for us as Muslim youth, as Kashmiri youth, whatever you want to call it, so for us the task right now is to equip ourselves in this digital economy, in this burgeoning economy that we are a part of, to equip ourselves with the right skills, with the futuristic skills, to focus on the positives, to focus on what we can achieve. Because we can keep saying, we are sitting here in Delhi, in Muradabad, or wherever, in Jhansi, wherever some incident is happening. We can keep talking about it, right? We can keep talking about it on loop. But whatever we say here, we need to realize whatever we say in Delhi and in these metropolitan cities, it has zero resonance in the hinterlands. They require their own process. They are much farther behind on the level of development, the awareness of civic identity. So for them the identity is still maybe based on community or whatever, and then the country. हमारे बोलने से यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं होगा. We can keep on talking on loop कि lynching गलत है, ये गलत है, वो होता रहेगा. So what we need to do is, and we need to become role models. I think that one of the sort of in sociological analysis, especially in black neighborhoods in the US, there is this whole concept of role models. So what happens is that from the black neighborhoods, the affluent ones.
So black liberals and academics came up with this idea that we need black role models. उसके बाद इनका भला हो जाएगा. और कुछ से नहीं हो रहा था. लिंडन बी जॉनसन ने ये फ्री बी शुरू करने से पहले भी ब्लैक्स का पर कैपिटा इनकम इससे बेहतर था. Families were staying together, not getting divorced willy-nilly. But now we need to fix an imaginary problem. So let's talk about black role models. और इन्होंने कैसे black role models तैयार किया? कोई भी मादरचोद रैपर को ग्लोरीफाई करते रहे. उससे क्या हुआ कि जो सब खराब बिहेवियर्स उन वाइट लोगों में था, saying wrong English, having countless wives, having baby mothers, meaning having a baby out of wedlock with someone, basically doing every tamasic thing in their lives, which were done by the white people who were slave owners in the past. Okay, those cultures got transferred to the blacks of those same places. Okay, now those whites had to change their ways, क्योंकि उनको तो कोई कॉडल नहीं करने वाला है. उनको तो सोसाइटी नहीं बोलेगा कि अगर तुम बोलो कि ये आई एम डूइंग नथिंग, ऐसा गलत इंग्लिश बोलोगे तो वाइट लोगों का तो सब मार के भगा देगा, कोई नौकरी वोकरी नहीं देगा. तो वाइट पीपल ऑफ दोज प्लेसेस, दे चेंज देयर वेज, देयर लाइफ स्टाइल, एवरीथिंग दे चेंज्ड. द ब्लैक्स ऑन द अदर हैंड, देयर वेज got crystallized, okay, got solidified, got stratified, and liberals started saying that this is the distinct black American experience, black American culture. थॉमस सोयल ने रिसर्च करके दिखाया कि आजकल के ब्लैक्स के जो लाइफस्टाइल है, ओके, द रैपर्स एटसेट्रा, द वे दे स्पीक इंग्लिश, ऑल दैट इज सिमिलर टू सम सबर्बन एरियाज ऑफ आयरलैंड एंड इंग्लैंड. ओके, ये कैसे हो गया भाई? वहाँ पे कोई ब्लैक नहीं था, तो वहाँ के जो इमिग्रेंट्स यूएसए में आए थे और स्लेव ओनर्स थे, उनका ये लाइफस्टाइल था जो कि got taken up by black people because they were the only white people they were seeing. But that bad behavior was when it was being done by whites, it was not being glorified by white liberals. It got glorified by white liberals because ये रोल मॉडल का वो भोसरीपा करना था. ठीक है, तो उस रोल मॉडल के चक्कर में आज क्या हुआ है कि all the black role models are fucking not jobs themselves. What role model are they going to be? Okay, like a few days back I posted, it's absolutely true that today African American black females are the worst role models in the history of role models for women in the history of women. So all that has been glorified as distinct black American culture, okay, even though it comes from Ireland, suburbs of Ireland and England. So ये है role model का चुतियापा. So we need to counter her on the leftist tangents she takes.
They move out. So then the people over there who are left behind, they have no role models to look up to. I think that we need to become like all of us as Muslim youth or as Kashmiri youth, and there are already people who are doing very well in various fields. We need to become role models so that people in our community think that if this one can do it being a Muslim, or if this one can do it being a Kashmiri, I can also do it.
Then why did you and Shah Faisal not continue with your political dreams? Like, why is it still that Kashmiris, if elections were to be held today or in 2024 with the general elections, if they are with the same choices before them, either Mehbooba Mufti's PDP or Omar Abdullah's NC, Farooq Abdullah Omar Abdullah's NC, why is it that there is no option for Kashmiris?
It's not right for me to comment on other political parties, so I will not go there. But I think the case, like we were a case of precocious politicians in their 30s. It's never too late for politics in India, and I think we jumped into politics far too soon. We had no idea. I will not speak for Dr. Shah Faisal, but I'll speak for myself. I had zero idea how. I had just come from this university idealism, of politics, that things should be a certain way. So the first time I got a request for a sifarish, I lashed out at that person. And I was like, what is he doing in government service if he's not attending his job? Like, why do you want him reinstated? My mother, look at her. She's been in the essential services all her life. We've never spent an Eid with her. She's been working in snowfall, in curfew. Why do you want sifarish? So I've grown up with this ethic that my mother had imparted. I've seen her in, as a public servant. And she used to help everybody at the hospital. Any patient would come, hamari help kar do, doctor ko dikhana, absolute strangers. She would help them. But if someone would say if someone would come back, after going into good health, if they would come back with a peti of apples, she would say, sorry, this is haram income for me. I cannot take it. Only my salary is halal. I cannot take this. This will be haram. And, she used to believe this, that, if we take something that is not ours, we'll get some sort of disease or whatever,
You influenced a lot by your mothers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because she single-handedly
So tell me, I want to know your views about hijab.
Okay, before the next topic starts, again, some important comments have come. So I'm not getting into the Khalid Amna thing, but one important thing that Rashid pointed out here in a problem with Gondang's argument here is that, see, Gondang, what is the end goal? The end goal, is it that you are going to kick out all Muslims from the country? Or your end goal can only be three things. Either you kick out all Muslims like Ambedkar wanted, which is not really practical. Second option is that all Muslims have to do ghar wapsi, or which is I don't think a practical solution, a practical goal to have in any time soon. And the third option is that you will basically have to live with these people forever and after. Okay, so in that case, what are we going to do? Islam is not going to support reformation in their texts. वो तो out of the question है. But what we can hope for is a situation like, okay, there was some problem with my mic or what? Did it, or was a problem with my headphone? What's going on? Fuck. So yeah, I think my voice was very soft up until now. Did it increase? The volume increase now? I think there's some problem with my mic. Shit. So the third option is that you'll need to have Muslims like we have Jews. Their books also say all sorts of things. Zoroastrianism has also all sorts of things said, okay? But they don't follow that in real life. So we can have Muslims who maybe know that their religion says those things, but just those bad things they don't follow in their lives. And some Muslims don't follow it already, some Muslims support it sneakily, but we will need to decrease the number of Muslims who are mainly pasmandas who go on the streets and do execute those things, okay? तो वो तो कम हो जाएगा, थोड़ा बहुत कैपिटलिज्म आएगा, उससे हो जाएगा. मोदी अगर इसको वो एलिविएटिंग पॉवर्टी करके कुछ अगर हो सके तो वो उससे हो जाएगा. अमर्त्य सेन लोगों का जो फार्मूला है कि सिर्फ गरीब है इसलिए मददचुद है, थोड़ा पैसा इनके हाथ में डाल दो तो ये सब नहीं करेंगे, तो उससे थोड़ा बहुत सोल्यूशन हो जाएगा. And the other thing you can have is the English Quran thing, okay? So which basically says almost nothing you can have a problem with, okay? Except just some elements of monotheism, that yeah, there is one God Allah and we must pray to him. But other than that, there's nothing problematic written against anyone, okay? So, and a lot of Muslims, especially in convent educated schools or in cities, a lot of people have Muslim friends. They are not going around trying to kill their Hindu friends at the moment, right? So what sort of Islam are they learning? Okay, there are so many like musicians, etc. also from Bangladesh whom we have known all our lives, who have done so many shows in Kolkata and all. So all of them are great friends with Hindus. They congratulate Hindus on different festivals, etc. These people are not really actively looking to kill Hindus. So where did they learn their Islam? Some Maulanas taught them some different kind of Islam maybe, or they read some Quran which did not have those things. So even if they don't reform their religion, they will bypass it maybe in some way if there are different role models like what Shehla is trying to propagate, or people like Khalid Amna, etc. So other two options are kind of out of the question, that you will kick out all of them or all of them will do ghar wapsi.
Did you wear a hijab at any point of time? And what is your view? I don't mean to put you down. If you did wear, I'm perfectly fine if you say that hijab is something that women should wear. That's up to you to have your views about it. Do you still feel that the hijab ban is wrong? What is your view about it?
I'll tell you my personal view, because I'm not, as I said,
absolutely.
Speaking from any political perspective. I wore the hijab in 12th class, and I was reading a lot of like Islamic literature at that time, and I went very deep into it, and I realized that I should do this. But after a while, like I gave it up, up on my own. So nobody ever forced me. Nobody
Your mother
asked
didn't
me,
tell you
no,
Pehno or
or
Avtaro?
otherwise. Yeah, nobody ever told me. So I was like doing a lot of self-study of religious literature and all of that. What I believe.
This is one thing I'm very curious about. That she is talking about self-study of religious literature as well. So what did she really study? So what does she know about Islam? Does she know all the things that we are concerned about? That will be very interesting to find out someday. Okay, first of all, I was just about to reply that Oniket Prantor is also my favorite Bangladeshi song, and yes, yours is too. So great, yes, absolutely, Oniket Prantor.
I'll come straight to the hijab ban. Why was I supporting the girls' right to wear the hijab? One point, simple.
For this is an interesting argument actually. On hijab, she has made out a great point, and which actually Amna also supported. I was not in favor of the hijab ban anyway, because I'm with Jay Sai Deepak here, that why should the court decide what's essential religious practice क्या है, वो चूज करने का हक, वो डिसाइड करने का हक सुप्रीम कोर्ट को किसने दिया, या फिर कोई भी जज को किसने दिया? उसका तो एक्लेसिस्टिकल ट्रेनिंग है नहीं, उसका सिर्फ टेम्पोरल लीगल ट्रेनिंग है. तो फॉर दैट आई एम नॉट बॉदर्ड अबाउट दैट एनीवे, बट शी गेव अ मोर नुआंस्ड आर्गुमेंट.
Girls, it is a passport to get out of home. You know, even to this date, when I dress in a certain way, my mother will tell me, ye mat pehno, aise rakho, you know, don't do this, baal khule mat rakho, whatever a usual mother will tell you, because there is so many, bad things happening out there. They want their daughters to be safe, right? And they have a certain perception कि अगर हमारी बेटी इस तरह से कपड़े पहनेगी, she will be safe. Whatever it is, whether it comes from culture, religion, it probably comes from all of those things. We are given certain prescriptions कि 7 बजे से पहले घर आना, which boys don't get, right? So for many girls, if you tell them कि आप हिजाब मत पहनो, it's possible, and it's not idealistic, it's not perfect, but and it's not sort of academically.
चलो हाँ, तो ये एक शॉर्ट टर्म प्रैग्मेटिक सोल्यूशन इन लोगों ने निकाला है कि चलो हिजाब नहीं पहनेंगे तो घर से निकलने ही नहीं देंगे. So fair enough, maybe that's right. So Godnank, you are making an interesting argument here, but actually I have a counter to this. So he's saying that Zoroastrians do not follow these teachings only because they are less in number. No, Muslims are also less in number in USA, but they are doing a lot of the same shenanigans, but in a different way. They are joining the academia, they are doing the equality labs bullshit. Zoroastrians are not really doing that even, right? Azim Premji is maybe doing, Tata is doing, but that's not with anti-Hindu intentions. That's just because he thinks these are great things to invest in, just for the same reason Anand Mahindra is doing. So it's not a matter of high or low population which is driving Zoroastrians. They just have given up on those things.
Politically correct, but they may be told that sorry, you cannot go to school anymore, or whatever, you need to be homeschooled or whatever. So for many girls it might actually be the first step towards freedom. It might be the first step in getting out, and then they can make their own choices.
Goddank, so you are asking how many Bangladeshi moderates condemned? Yeah, many. Depends on how many Bangladeshi moderates you follow on social media. Otherwise, how will you know how many exactly Bangladeshi moderates protested? So moderates के protest से कुछ होगा नहीं. That's a different issue because they are very much outnumbered. But yes, countless moderates protested.
I believe that faith is a very personal sort of, it's a deeply personal affair, and it is between myself and my God. It's a very deeply personal relationship, and people who are very preachy, like even Muslim people, right? They will oppose LGBT rights. So what do I say to them? I've been very vocal about that. I will say कि भाई आप फैसला मत करो, ठीक? There will be a judgment day where God will judge them, and they will give their hisab to God, right? Whatever they are, LGBT, जो कुछ भी है, they will tell God why I did what I did, and they will be judged accordingly. It is their personal relationship. You don't get into that. Whatever they're, they may be better in Iman, they may be better Muslims, they may be doing better charity for all we know, right? So our priority should be to perfect our own Iman. So for example, many things that I do, they are religiously motivated.
So she's talking about individualism inside Islam. So this is the kind of quote-unquote reform I'm talking about, that they just make it up on their own. Even if that works, so good. इनके साथ रहना तो है ही ultimately.
So for example, I don't lie. I have a very strong, sort of inhibition against lying. That comes from religion. Now, whether or not I'm religious, I've read somewhere that, you cannot be a true Muslim if you lie, for example. Or if I do charity, that comes from a religious thing, right? So there are many things. I mean, religion is not just about hijab. So similarly, a woman, when she decides to wear the hijab, its genesis can be patriarchal or whatever you want to call it. But it is also like she has a relationship with her own God, which she wants to, if she thinks that it will please her God, that she wears a hijab, or if it will please her God that she does XYZ thing, she is also a thinking individual. It's not just that the hijab is forced. She's also an individual. She's also a member of the faith, member of the community, and she can decide for herself what she wants tomorrow. If she decides she doesn't want to wear the hijab, fair enough.
Okay.
But it's not for me to say what her relationship with God should look like.
Okay, since you speak so much about human rights and you are you have been you've been very vocal about having a broad view when it comes to women's rights also. What do you
Gordon is making an interesting point again here that see Central Asian countries में Islamism लौट रहा है तो लौट रहा है सब कुछ is in a process Gordon. So everything will come and go. So all for the last few decades at least they have had kind of a true secularism, so to speak, at least since the 80s, 90s at least. So if someday again they return to Islamization, to kya kare? So we can't ignore the fact that at the moment Uzbekistan is a secular place as fuck.
do you have to feel? What do you have to say about what Nupur went through? Do you feel that she's a victim, or do you feel that she had it coming for taking a radical point of view?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what exactly she said, but I saw like things on TV. Of course, it was all over the TV. What I feel and what I've realized is that as a rational person who also does not identify as an atheist, I do not identify as an atheist, but I call myself a rational person or whatever. I feel that there is a place for faith and there is a place for science. You will see doctors, Muslim doctors at times, who actually work on CRISPR technology, but at the same time they will believe in creationism, right? What is this? This is a contradiction. So on the one hand, you are denying evolution and genetics and all of that. At the same time, professionally in your practice, you are doing that. How did I reconcile the two? I mean, there are many religious beliefs that may come across as irrational or whatever. I think it's the case with all faith. Now, I'll give a personal example. I believe that, by the time I am older or by the time the next generation comes, India will be safer for women. Or, someday we will get rid of rape and harassment that women face, right? Is it an irrational belief? Looking at the present things, it might come across as an irrational belief. But there's a place in my heart for it that I want women to be safe. It's a faith that, one day we will have a better world. It may be irrational, the world may get worse, right, for women. But it is a faith that I hold. And it may not be scientifically supported. Scientifically, we may be told that, yes, women will continue to get more free and men will there will be a backlash from men against that. So scientifically, there might be more violence against women in the future. But this is something that I hold, as an article of faith that, women should be safe, right? So I believe that there is a place for faith and there is a place for science. And when you look at the creation of the universe and all of that, right? There are questions that can be, now with certainty, with the James Webb telescope and all of that, we can say a lot of things with certainty. But there are certain questions which still remain at the level of metaphysics, which physics cannot explain. So I believe I've learned to steer clear of people.
God dang, I don't have any disagreement with you on that. We absolutely need an overwhelming Hindu majority to survive. Yes, absolutely. I'm never saying overrun the country with Muslims and hope that they are moderates. No fucking way. So, because I said that even the Bangladeshi moderates, they are a lot in number, maybe thousands or even a lakh or so, but they are still an insignificant number. So I'm not going to stake my life out with the hope for moderates. No fucking way. Okay. So, and what I want to point out to you is that we already have an overwhelming Hindu majority. So usse kya ho raha hai? So instead of explaining or increasing the this fold of Hindutva, why hope for non-pragmatic things like kicking out Muslims without any basis? Illegal immigrants है तो ठीक है, उसके अलावा किसको कहाँ भेजोगे? So for that I'm disagreeing with you in the previous points, not on this particular point. Bro, when you do Q&A, I do Q&A basically in the middle of the podcast only. HP Naveen is saying, if India's partition was done the Ambedkar way, don't you think it would turn out like Israel-Palestine issue? I don't think Ambedkar's idea would work because our borders are so porous. So किसी ना किसी को थोड़ा bribe देके रिश्वत देके फिर से घुसी जाते, और फिर वैसे भी अगर मतलब bribe नहीं भी ले रहा है कोई government employee, फिर भी ये घुसी जाते. Ambedkar's argument was not very pragmatic. Overwhelming Hindu majority means there is still Muslim population. Exactly. And that Muslim population who will still remain, that we hope will be moderates like Amna, Air Rahman or people like that. Central Asian country, Godank is saying, Central Asian country point is you can never tame Islam, it can never reform if the people are not converted to another. Yeah, Islam तो reform नहीं होगा. Islam सिर्फ इस्लामी लोग सिर्फ अपना Islam खुद से imagine कर लेंगे. What we are seeing in UAE. UAE is probably the safest country in the world today. Why is that? It's safest even for non-Muslims. कैसे हो रहा है भाई? Islamic monarchy है वहाँ पे.
people's faiths, whatever they want to believe in, as long as it is not infringing upon my rights or someone else's constitutional rights, yes, then the state has a right to intervene.
Okay, when I asked you the question on Nupur, it wasn't so much about her being a Hindu and saying it, or her being saying something anti-Islamic. That's not what I was alluding to. What I was saying was, as a woman, you're also taking a stand as a woman, as a Muslim woman, as a Kashmiri woman. You're taking all three are your identities. We have multiple identities,
Correct, yeah.
right, as citizens. Now you have these three very strong identities. Besides being a successful career woman, you have that too. Now Nupur was all those three things too. She's a Hindu. She's a politician who's a Hindu. She's a very vocal politician, and she's faced this kind of harassment. Now, what happens is, what I'm trying to say is that because of the stand that you are taking now, God forbid that you could face that kind of violence, or you could face that kind of threats and things like that, because you are taking a very radical point of view. She took a very radical point of view. Does that in any way make you feel that there is a kinship that you feel with her, or people like her?
I would not describe it as kinship, certainly. But yeah, have we all experienced this in the public sphere? Absolutely. Like, there are landmines that you are often told to steer clear of because they invite a backlash that is so huge. I mean, if you look at the history of Section 295A of the Indian Penal Code, why did the British bring in Section 295A? Because in the absence of it, people took matters into their own hands. There was a case of the the Rangila school controversy, basically, and the person who published it, he was lynched in open court by Ilmuddin. And after that, the British brought in this. So this has always been there. Yes, like, certainly in an ideal world, we would, not see this kind of vigilantism. And yeah, if like somebody's saying something, like, we can address it by debate, etc. Yes, those are things in an ideal world. But yeah, we've all...
Yeah, ideal world though is not allowed or recommended in Islam. So what is she talking about? So this is what I'm talking about. That some people who really want to lead a moderate life, because not everyone can be pissed off with kafirs all the time. I have seen some of those Muslims make up is their own Islam, sort of. So I think that's also what she's doing.
Come across these. I mean, religion, nationalism, these are landmines. The moment you say something, like, you become, I can definitely relate to it. I wouldn't describe it as kinship, but I can definitely relate to, what one goes through.
But one thing I'm very curious about is, why does she keep saying that she does not feel any kinship with Nupur Sharma? What is she intending here? That's a pretty interesting word to use, that she is not feeling kinship with Nupur Sharma. I'm not going to jump to evil intentions, but what do you think she might mean? Does she mean that at the end of the day she should not have disrespected the Prophet? Because after all, she is a believer. What do you think she means? But she's also calling for debate and is opposing vigilantism, quote unquote.
It's like one thing that, I mean, it's like an arrow that you shoot. You say something from a public platform, and yeah, it can invite all sorts of backlash.
Did you, at any point of time, did somebody tell you, or did any organization tell you that, what the hell are you doing? Why are you speaking on, in favor of the Indian government or in favor of the Indian army? Has that come to you?
So I've described this echo chamber of sorts that I've been part of for the longest time. So these are friends. I mean, I don't mean echo chamber as a derogatory word or something, even though it has a sort of negative connotation. But there are people who will say, oh, why are you saying this? My simple answer has been that because it is true. That's why I'm saying this. I mean, I'm not saying that there are no problems in the country. हमने सब कुछ एकदम अमृत काल आ गया है, women violence खत्म हो गया है, सब कुछ खत्म हो गया. No, it's not that. But if certain things are happening, I've always been a critic of the centre's Kashmir policy. So if now the Kashmir policy is good, I would invite people to debate me on facts. As I mentioned, there has in fact been a court-martial of some army personnel who were involved in a fake encounter. Isn't that all what we were asking all along? And I feel that a lot of people who say this, who will say this, oh, why are you saying this? They haven't actually visited Kashmir recently. And they haven't seen the kind of, change, whether the visible change, the change at the level of perception, the change in, this identity crisis. They haven't seen those changes that I'm talking about. So that's why, I think that's why I decided to speak out, because as I said, there are congressional committee reports in the US that will still say कि restore Kashmir, internet in Kashmir, whereas internet is in full bloom, 5G is working, everything is working. But a lot of these narratives are, whether they are motivated, they know, and they are still saying certain things, or they don't want to be seen as opposing. So it's, as I said, it's a feature of our times. It's polarization. Just because we don't want to acknowledge our opponents' achievements. And I think that's not good for democracy, because in a democracy, we have other models, right? We have models where members of the opposition after election, they are co-opted to actually hold office in the government. There are those kind of models as well. Why can't we have that kind of a model?
What would you say to Kashmiri Pandits who feel that we're still not we still don't feel safe. We still can't go and, buy land or go there back because we don't know when things will slip out of control.
I can understand because, every time I was talking about the change situation in Kashmir, I was doing this touch wood, right? Because for the longest time, we are not used to anything good happening in Kashmir. And it's a sort of trauma response that, even when you're so used to bad things happening, even when something good happens, you actually don't believe it. I again hope I'm not speaking too soon, but recently I was just driving around with my friends in Srinagar, and they showed me those flats that have been built for migrant pundits. So they are in Srinagar, they're in a good area, Hyderpora area. We know that there are security concerns. So, it's not for me to say that, it's safe. So I think that's the government's sort of...
And what would you say if somebody turns around and watches this show and says, don't believe her, she belongs to the urban Naxal gang, she belongs to the... And abhi wo aise keh rahi hain, baad mein change kar sakti hain, her stance. What would you say to that then?
I've realized one thing. In public life...
This is actually a long answer. So, see again, she keeps smiling whenever she's talking about her past views. Some interesting discussion has come about here. So, Rashid is saying, I think the Nupur Sharma question wasn't clear from Smita, perhaps. What Goddank is saying is that, I'm saying that... so what you are saying here, Rashid, what Goddank is that, Rashid, I'm saying the problem is that the ideology, the problem is the ideology, other things have been tried, etc. So, we all know that, right? Rashid knows that, all my viewers know that, where the problem lies. Solution की बात हो रही है. Solution में हमारा disagreement है. तो, why the China model is, I think, wrong. So, imagine, when did you first smoke? Or when did you first drink? And how afraid were you of hiding it from your parents, that your parents will find out, etc. Okay. So was that fear more when you were doing it for the first time, or that fear was more when you were doing it for the second time or the third time or the fourth time? So the problem with letting governments do stuff like that is that the very next moment when someone you don't like comes to power, they will do that same thing to you. Now, I'm not saying that just because BJP is not doing any sort of those re-education camps sort of things, and that means that if Mamata Banerjee or Rahul Gandhi become prime ministers, they will also never do re-education camps. I'm not saying that, but उनके दिल में जो डर होगा, वो डर will be your smoking cigarette and whiskey for the first time or alcohol for the first time. But if this government does it right now, the next government will send someone or the other to concentration camps or re-education camps as well, and they will say that ये तो आपने भी किया था. एक एक्स्ट्रा उनको आर्ग्यूमेंट उनके फेवर में मिल जाएगा हमेशा के लिए. गवर्नमेंट को जो क्षमता दोगे वो भोसरी वालों के लिए एक स्लिपरी स्लोप ही बना देंगे. ठीक है, गवर्नमेंट का यही प्रॉब्लम है, गवर्नमेंट का यही कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है. एक चुतियापा थोड़ा बहुत करने दो, उसका पूरा मतलब उसका 100x कर देंगे. तो अगर तुम अभी किसी को, अगर तुमको नहीं पसंद आ रहा है, उनको तुम री-एडुकेशन कैंप में भेजोगे, तो जिस दिन बीजेपी हारेगा तुम जाओगे री-एडुकेशन कैंप में. कोई रोक नहीं पाएगा.
You cannot convince everybody, but the only thing that you can do is preserve your own integrity, at least in your own eyes. People are going to be skeptical. People are always going to say those things. When I was at the height of my anti-BJP activism, people in Kashmir used to say, "Arey, ye to BJP agent hai." People are going to say anything. That's the thing. People say and believe the worst kind of things.
No, when you were anti-BJP, they said you're pro-BJP.
They would say, "Ye BJP agent hai," because all kinds of conspiracy theories go around, right? And people will continue to say whatever they want to say. So I've realized one thing, that you have to stop the obsession with what people are saying, because people have no idea of your reality, and they will say things that are absolutely divorced from reality, and that's a fact that we deal with, right? But I would only say two things. I would say that integrity requires us to have congruence between our actions, thoughts, and beliefs. So if I'm acting in a certain way, if I'm going and writing the civil services exam, I'm placing my faith in the fairness of a system. If I'm going and I top an exam, then it's testament to the fact that there is no discrimination. What did we think? Like when abrogation happened, what did we think? We thought that पूरा delimitation हो गया तो जम्मू को ज़्यादा seats मिल जाएंगी, कश्मीर को कम seat मिलेगा. ये एक narrative था. Did that happen? No, that did not happen. Actually, Kashmir got more seats in the delimitation than Jammu. We said कि नहीं अब तो ये सारा कुछ जम्मू वालों को दे देंगे, ये सब कुछ चलता है, ठीक है. But you look at the assistant professor lists that have come. All the candidates from Jammu, they had to actually come to Srinagar for the interview, right? But there's no big conspiracy happening, and like the toppers, they're all Kashmiris. At some places the toppers are from Jammu. मतलब जो हमने ये पूरा नैरेटिव बना लिया है ना कि लाइक देयर इज अ बिग कंस्पिरेसी, बाहर के लोगों को बसा जाएगा, दैट डिडंट हैपन. सो आई थिंक दैट वी नीड टू प्रिजर्व आवर ओन इंटेग्रिटी. अगर आपको डोमिसाइल सर्टिफिकेट सबसे पहले मिल रहा है, आई थिंक आई मस्ट हैव बीन वन ऑफ द फर्स्ट पीपल.
That domicile certificate I want to come back to, because there's this, you said that there was no discrimination, it was completely
None at all.
agnostic of
Yeah.
caste, religion, everything, but there's this thing that about the Kashmiri family card, the state ID card. There's this, last year it had come out that the Jammu Kashmir family card niklega, and the government says that it's the
So Zombie Killer is saying, I fully don't know about the Nupur Sharma case. Are you from India? Why don't you know fully about the Nupur Sharma case? What is stopping you from knowing fully about the Nupur Sharma case? It's the most talked about case in entire 2022, 2023 when it happened. I forgot. So yeah, so find out about it. Google it. Okay. Honeyman is saying books like Kali's Child on Ramakrishna Paramahansa should be debunked. Yeah, no one debunked it really. People just got pissed off with it. And how can someone debunk it? उसका काउंटर रिसर्च कहाँ से आएगा? उसने तो गांडू ने खुद अपना कंक्लूजन्स बना लिया. We can never say for sure. We can't even say for sure whether Kali's child, whatever his findings are, if they are 100% true or not. But my point is that even if they are true, so what? Does that decrease any wisdom taught by Ramakrishna Paramahansa? And one other thing that I wanted to reply to is, HP Naveen, वो 2-child पॉलिसी में बहुत प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा. तो पहली बात तो है हिंदू पॉपुलेशन तो अफेक्टेड होगा ही, बट ऑल्सो मुस्लिम पॉपुलेशन विल बी इन चेक एनी वे. देयर फर्टिलिटी रेट इज गोइंग डाउन. इट विल गो डाउन फर्दर. जबकि 70 आवर वर्क वीक आएगा, कैपिटलिज्म और भी ज़्यादा आएगा, नौकरी वकरी ज़्यादा हो जाएगा, तब नहीं होगा. उनका फर्टिलिटी रेट कम हो रहा है, नॉट एज fast decrease as Hindus, but it's decreasing for them as well. So I don't think 2-child policy we should do anytime soon. So so Rashid, Kali's Child is a quote unquote history book on Ramakrishna Paramahansa by a Western Indologist historian who went into Ramakrishna Mission's annals and their archives and researched everything about Ramakrishna Paramahansa and concluded that Ramakrishna Paramahansa was maybe molested, or maybe he was gay and that's why he had these views or something. Maybe he was effeminate because he was abused as a child. That's what he concocted or maybe concluded.
The objective is to create an authentic, verified and reliable database of families in J&K to make sure
what Godank is saying in this last comment, but we Hindus can go for a full ghar wapsi. Yes. If that is possible, yeah, I'm in favor. I have no problem with this. Whatever solution you suggest based on your efforts, your personal efforts, or whatever organization you're trying to create, I'm all for that. But when it comes to government, it's a completely different matter. The government should only do those things which we will be able to counter when another government does those same things to us. That's a formula you should always follow.
Welfare schemes reach eligible beneficiaries faster and in a more transparent manner, because there was always this thing of, these welfare measures, there's leakage. The corruption in Jammu and Kashmir is legendary. Sure. Everybody knows.
What did RKM reply to that book? That it did not happen. They did not bring out a review or sort of an academic debunking of it, right? They were just pissed off and they decided that they won't let anyone get into their archives anymore. And who did Gayatri Chakraborty support? That Indologist or Ramakrishna Mission?
About how the loans and everything happened, right? All those bade makan that you see.
Eager to Learn is asking an uncomfortable question. How to incentivize being and converting to Hindu? First and foremost, you have to say that there is no fucking thing called casteism or birth-based casteism. It's all based on your karma and karma of this generation. No past life. So that's the starting point.
As soon as you land, that's all a testament to the fact that a number of them were created because of the leakages that happened in the welfare schemes. Now, the criticism of this family ID card is, so when it comes to identity cards, traditionally Kashmiris don't like it. Ki wo Shinakt parade hoga, ID card nikalo. So whereas an ID card, an Aadhaar card, a driving license in the rest of the country doesn't mean much, in Northeast India and in Kashmir, it has different significance. Now, people like us who are reporters have gone, interacted, seen and understand it slightly more than probably those who don't travel to those to conflict zones basically, and to border areas. Now, the narrative in the foreign press is that, oh look, this is being done purposely so that they can identify kaun nahi hai and things like that. And the JNK former chief minister, PDP chief, and she called it, quote, another surveillance tactic to tighten the iron grip on the lives of Kashmiri people. This is what she said. Now, you have an experience of Aadhaar card, of the domicile card.
This is what she said. Oh my god, for those who know this joke will find this hilarious. Okay. So if in saying I support Ghar Wapsi and to uphold Kula Dharma individually, the ideal should be to have your own Pandavas, won't be followed by all. But yeah. So will we see anti-UC riots at the scale of anti-CA riots? No, I don't think so.
Do you feel that another ID card is unnecessary, or do you feel that Kashmiri should be open to another one?
First of all, I have to admit I don't know about this particular card that you are talking about, but I'll start by saying a word about the foreign press and all of that. There is this whole sort of virtue signaling towards India, which is, I feel, borderline racist in nature, which is that the Western media should lecture us, how to run our country. And for the longest time, we also used to consume this kind of narrative. But now you see the failure of Western interventionism in Gaza. The entire Western institutions together.
Okay. Afin has made a great point that Gayatri Chakraborty supported RKM. Okay, she's supporting RKM for the same exact reason. Now Shehla Rashid is saying that Western media ka maka. So that's because of their post-colonialism getting triggered in them. Okay, because they are not decolonial folk. They are all about post-colonialism. So for that they hate the West, white people, etc. Based on that, Gayatri Chakraborty is I think opposing Ramakrishna Mission. Supporting Ramakrishna Mission. If that same research was done by a Bengali Marxist scholar or a Muslim Marxist scholar, I don't think she would be opposing it. And other than that, maybe she has an extra soft corner for Ramakrishna Mission because they are known as an anti-caste force in Bengal. So and she's from a Brahmin family. So Brahmin families are historically religious even in the cities. So उसके वजह से शायद होगा इनका कि अरे एक ही तो मेरा कल्चर बचा है अच्छा जिसको हम बोल सकते हैं जिसमें कैस्टिज्म नहीं है, उसको ये कौन सा वाइट गोरा आके ये सब गलत बोल दिया, इसलिए उसको काउंटर करना पड़ेगा.
They failed to effect even a ceasefire in Gaza, right? And they are unanimously and without qualification supporting Israel's right to deal with its security issues however it deems fit. But when we come to India, even though in India there is peace, there is, everything, institutions are working, there is this sort of like lecturing tone, this kind of preachy tone that, India should not do this.
Yeah, so Rashid is saying casteism card can be used only in Dalit population, but for Muslim. Same. You'll have to tell them that, yes, you are doing a Ghar Wapsi, but we have this thing called Varna system, but Varna is based on your profession right now. Whatever profession you are in right now, that's your Varna theoretically. And when your child does some other thing, that will be his Varna. RKM did publish a review. So debunk to ho gaya. So what's the problem? If India had America like Second Amendment law, maybe Hindus could have retained their Kshatriya spirit can be still done. Yes, gun is very important. I'm of course very much in favor of liberalizing gun laws, which most right wingers are opposed in this case. But for awakening Kshatriya spirit, you can work out at home, learn martial arts at the very least. No one's stopping you from doing that. Okay, Afin is saying RKM wrote an entire book countering it. Oh, so what's the problem then? I guess that did not get too much traction then. But to be fair, this Kali's child is not even a very significant problem. That it's been forgotten by most people. It's not really a burning issue.
I'm not aware about this particular scheme as such, but I think that there are various schemes such as Ayushman Bharat and this PMJ, Jan Arogya Yojana, health insurance, etc., which takes the family as a unit. Because the 5 lakh insurance that it has, it's for the family as such. So maybe it is for those kind of schemes. I don't know. I'll be honest about that. But yeah, whatever governance initiatives the government is bringing, yes, we should criticize whenever we feel something wrong. But we should also not spin conspiracy theories. And what the politicians say, I don't want to attack anyone in particular. You mentioned Mehbooba. I don't know what she said exactly. I don't want to attack her. But what politicians say, that has a certain value for narrative and political purposes. But the people, common people on that, and this is something that I found during my research as well, that the common people will actually rush to get those cards, quickest, because they don't want to be left out of any scheme. There is this golden card, which is, very famous in Kashmir. Golden card, basically, it gives you, access to some healthcare benefits and all of that. It's coveted, like people are running from pillar to post to get that golden card, to avail of these medical facilities. So one of the very popular things in Kashmir, it is called, colloquially, it is called the Modi Dukan, which is these Jan Arogya Kendras, Jan Aushadhi Kendra. So in which you get generic medicine at very... so in my brief flirtation with politics, when I went to the city, the Srinagar city I'll talk about, there is extreme urban poverty. And people come to you and they say कि आप कहीं पे political...
She's going to get into the Modi Dukan concept further, and now some important comments have come up. Okay, someone correct zombie killer. And Honeyman is saying, Dada not replying to my comment. No, I replied to your comment was that RKM did publish a review, right? So I commented on that. My whatever I say comes, I think, about 10-15 seconds later after in the live stream. So Aman Singh is saying, where did we fail as a society? Why Hindus never held these Muslims responsible for their acts? Can we blame Nehru for it entirely? I think in a way you can blame Nehru entirely, because if Vallabhbhai Patel had become the Prime Minister, a whole lot of our problems of today would not exist. So there would still be a CPIM, etc. Bengalis would still be communists since they were heading towards communism anyway. But a lot of things would be different if Vallabhbhai Patel was the Prime Minister. Nehru did some serious damage. Okay, Rashid is bringing up an important point. Yes, but I have a counter for it. He's saying that Dalits left Hinduism because of caste discrimination, but Muslims did not convert to Hinduism because of that. So in that case, first of all, not every Muslim knows exactly when their ancestors converted, etc. Most of them are not even sure whether they really converted or they are also great descendants of great invader kings, etc. तो वो ambiguity है. So उसमें history उतना important है नहीं. But अगर history important है ही, your selling point first and foremost has to be that, see, you were oppressed and you were forced into conversion. These are the historical evidences that what happened in these localities, etc. Based on and also on top of that, Hinduism is a great thing for which casteism cannot be an option at all. So you have to say that this is what happened to you. On the other hand, you have this great tradition here, and why don't you come back to us? And also, there is no such thing as birth-based casteism. So casteism will always be a question while appealing to other people. I think India failed because Indian leaders were already politicians before. No, the other reply to my question on scripture. Where is his question on scripture? Let me check. Honeyman. Did the comment get disappeared? Okay, let's see. Books like Kali's Child on Ramakrishna Paramahansa should be debunked. Yeah, that I checked. Then just post your comment once again, okay? Because I can't find it here. Maybe it was way back. I am scrolling up. I can't find it. Type once again, okay?
मीटिंग करते हो, वो आपको बोलते हैं मैडम जॉब लगा दो, और आप उनसे पूछते हो कि आई गेट पर्सनली मूड फ्रॉम दिस बिकॉज आई एम फ्रॉम डाउन टाउन श्रीनगर, एंड आप उनसे पूछते हो आपकी एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन क्या है, कहाँ तक पढ़ा है, वो बोलते हैं हमने 6th तक पढ़ा है, 6th क्लास तक, 7th क्लास तक पढ़ा है, क्या जॉब मिलेगा, मतलब आजकल PhD को PN का जॉब नहीं मिल रहा है. एंड यू सी दिस पीपल आर इन एब्जेक्ट पॉवर्टी, एटलीस्ट इन श्रीनगर, लाइक देयर इज टेरेबल पॉवर्टी. एंड वन ऑफ द मेन थिंग्स दैट पीपल यूज टू कम टू अस फॉर वॉज कि हमारा महीने का इतना खर्चा आता है, डायबिटीज़ मेडिसिन, लाइफ सेविंग मेडिसिन विच यू हैव टू टेक, यू हैव नो चॉइस. डायबिटीज़ का मेडिसिन है, किसी चीज़ का मेडिसिन है, अस्थमा का, हमारा इतना महीने का खर्चा आता है, कैन यू प्लीज गिव अस दिस काइंड ऑफ फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट.
डायलिसिस नहीं है, डायलिसिस मशीन्स कम है,
and
they'll die if they don't get dialysis.
Now I'm not an anarchist, I support welfare, and for welfare you need state intervention, and I think that we need to recognize that the state has come out with
man, these are the things we need to oppose her on, and most BJP people actually support her on this, that she is saying I'm not an anarchist, I'm in favor of welfare. No madam Shehla Rashid, all people who are against welfare are not anarchists. What we are saying as libertarians is that government should stick to protecting life, liberty and property, negative rights, not positive rights. I have the right to be not harmed by you. Okay, you don't have the right to demand a service from me. That's the difference. We are not anarchists.
Very good, initiatives such as this Ayushman Bharat insurance scheme, this Jan Aushadhi scheme, which is very popular in Kashmir. I think it is very much in touch with the realities of the ground, because it is addressing as a newbie politician with no financial support.
So they associated with Modi?
So it's called the Modi दुकान. जैसे लोग बोलते हैं कि वहाँ कहाँ जाना है, मोदी दुकान पे जाना है, या मुझे वहाँ पे छोड़ दो, मोदी दुकान पे छोड़ दो.
It's easier to say it than Jan Aushadhi Kendra.
Jan Aushadhi Kendra, yeah, nobody uses that term.
So the BJP is not seen as a villain all that much. Thanks
no, that's what I'm saying. See, politically हम लोग बहुत कुछ बोलते हैं और हम लोग बहुत कुछ बोलेंगे, लेकिन जो ground पे लोग हैं, they rush. It is their priority to get generic medicines. See, if you are a leftist.
But vote नहीं देंगे BJP को.
That's not for me to say. No, that's not, I will not answer.
No, I'm just saying that even when you speak to the BJP, they'll say that. That there are certain areas where because of these schemes which are agnostic to religion, everybody gets benefit. But when it comes to voting, there is a separate mentality that comes in.
First of all, in Srinagar, the historical voting record has been 20%.
Yeah.
Like that's the historic voting. In the last by-election that happened, the voting percentage was at 7%. And I think Farooq Saab won with some 2% votes or something. So first of all, voting वहाँ पे है ही नहीं इतना. Like unless the BJP can mobilize new voters, because all the existing voters are cadre voters of parties. So that's a separate, when you go to vote, 100 things play into that.
Yeah, lot of things. True.
Yeah, but this is about the government.
Where is your voter card? You have a voter ID card? Or
I have applied. It's stuck in some I had uploaded a an expired ID and then it's stuck and whatever. But yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, it's
You will vote in 2024.
I had actually applied for that voter card thing online because I was, it's also part of my work. I need to keep figuring out how digital India and digital governance is working. Then I did something stupid and it got stuck. But whatever, like the online services in Kashmir, there are like 914 online services. 914 services have been digitalized. So there is no human interface. What that means at a sort of personal level is that you do not have to go before any bureaucrat or politician and supplicate. Earlier, these very very simple things, people were held hostage for these kind of things. कि अगर आपको street light चाहिए, like this is a big thing in politics. कि हमारे यहाँ से street light लगवा दो. I didn't get the whole thing about the street lights. या अगर किसी को कोई document चाहिए, तो पहले सिफारिश करवाना है. Now actually, now institutions are working. Now processes are working without.
That doesn't mean welfare is good, Shehla Rashid. Institutions are working because for now, magically, mysteriously, miraculously, we have some people with good intentions. But if you leave this exact same system in the hands of people who don't have good intentions, then we are fucked. We will go back to 1991, pre-1991 era of GDP growth rate of 1.1%.
Interference. So I think that's a great sort of thing that you need to acknowledge. And
so where is Shehla Rashid going from here now? Like, do you want to just keep away from politics, that I cannot do this? Because to bring about change is not easy. Either you're an activist, or you're a journalist, or you are an academician, or you are a politician, or you're a bureaucrat. How do you bring change to the lives of people? If that is what you want to do, which is help people, how do you plan to do it?
One thing that I've realized is, how they say on airplanes that put on your own mask first and then you can help the others. So I think that I need to figure out some things about my own life first. I need to, I've got this new job and I've got my PhD to work on. So I think that I'm also working on my,
Yeah, so Honeyman, we can see your comments where you are asking that whether we can see your comment or not, but we can't see the other comment you were talking about, the scripture comment. Did you post any link or something? They get disappeared by default only. I'm speaking very bad English today. I don't know what's happened to me. I think I'm too excited about the World Cup.
Sort of research. So those kind of things I'm doing at the moment. But at the same time, as a citizen, I do feel responsible because,
Yeah, so Honeyman, we are just seeing you writing this comment. Uske baad kuch nahi hai.
People keep writing to me. I get so many.
HP Naveen is saying, guys, who do us Indians should idolize as national heroes? Certainly not Mahatma. I feel like once we youth idolize a real good leader and follow his thoughts, society can be really improved. See, all leaders have flaws. So if you're talking about who should be taught as heroes in your childhood days, in school, high school, etc., there I would say teach all of our freedom fighters, etc., and our past kings, etc. But when you grow up, you'll learn, if you read more about them, not everyone's going to read more about them, but if you do, you'll learn that they also had many flaws, etc. So for idols, though, it can never be a person. Idols ke liye to Bhagwan hi honge, best way. And as for atheists, what might be the case? I mean, you do need some reference points. So great athletes, people who have overcome great difficulties in life, those sorts of stories.
So many emails from all over the country, so many messages on Instagram that, you've been an inspiration for us. Why are you not speaking against the government anymore, etc. This, that, right? So maybe somewhere I have led people into a path of cynicism towards the government, which I think I really need to address. And I want to contribute positively. I want to contribute. I don't want to harp on negative things because I think it affected.
Yeah, she is trying to take up a more positive role. And okay, Honeyman is saying interesting things. He's saying, I guess the comment is getting disappeared. How can I ask the question? Are ajib problem hai to? Are you posting a link? Is it that's why maybe it's getting disappeared? Or are you saying any gali or something? Is that's why is it getting disappeared? What English am I saying today? Yeah, don't idolize leaders, etc. Yeah, वो तो बहुत ही problematic है. Bad feeling we may lose the World Cup. अरे भाई चुप. HP Naveen, yeah, okay. So Afin is saying, misinterpreted Ramakrishna's life as a bhakta, as tantric practice, and unfortunately the book is so full of cultural and linguistic mistranslations that the general premise can't be taken seriously. I see.
My own mental health also very negatively when you keep watching videos of certain horrors, or when you keep focusing on negative things, it affects you mentally. There are good things happening, and let's just go along with those good things. Let's see what we can contribute, As I said, like my message to people who look up to me, regardless of whether they are Muslim or not, a lot of young people also look up to me. My message to them should not be there is a big bad state which is going to be enabled by a digital surveillance project, which is Digital India, which is the kind of narrative that I put out earlier. But when I actually navigated Digital India, when I actually navigated government processes, that is not happening. It's a conspiracy theory. So I think it's really important for me to, put out the right message about like I think the foreign policy, let me give you an example. I mean, I was talking about this welfare, right? If you're a leftist, you should support this kind of, welfare initiative, generic medicines. This is a huge talking point in the left politics, actually, that insulin was actually developed by someone free of cost, and then some other companies came and they licensed it, right? So life-saving drugs should not be patented. At the same time, if we have a Jan Aushadhi program in our country, should we not appreciate it? You tell me as a leftist. We should, because this generic medicine is a huge talking point in the left. Similarly, with the foreign policy, I mean, I'm very much impressed. I mean, I'm also biased because Dr. Jaishankar is from our
JNU,
university.
yes.
Yes. So there's a certain bias at work over there. But I mean, if you look at objectively, I've read his book, I've seen his engagements. And as a leftist, should you not support that kind of foreign policy where we are neither lackeys of the US, nor we are acknowledging the Cold War narrative of Russia. We are not acknowledging the Cold War binary that Russia wants to force on us. We are not towing anybody's line. We are taking an independent stance, as Dr. Jaishankar says in his books, like that we need to have strategic clarity about our own objectives. We are leading the global South voices, and we are engaging with the least developed countries. And at the same time, we are the third largest economy. And this requires a certain kind of foreign policy, which speaks from a third world perspective, but at the same time, it also speaks to a first world hegemony. I mean, we talk about multilateral reform of multilateral institutions, reform of global institutions. I think that the kind of foreign policy that we have at this moment, I think regardless of political lines, we should endorse it. Now, my sort of personal project here is to walk away from polarization. Because what happens due to polarization? There's one kind of polarization which is political. BJP versus the rest, all of that, right? There's another kind of polarization, which is that if Muslims continue to feel this way, and as we said, they're the second largest majority, if Muslims continue to feel a certain way, India is going to the moon. India is, leading global voice, global South voices. India is at a very unique position, like in space science, vaccine science, so many other things, we are leading. Muslims should not become alienated from that progress, from that national development. And that is also an aspect of polarization.
Okay. Best case scenario, if really Muslims get inspired from her and conclude that, okay, we don't have to imagine that we are at threat all the time, and we are not in a victimized position, and Narendra Modi is in fact a great prime minister. So that puts us free marketeers still in a very small minority again, because most BJP people are afraid of unbridled capitalism. They are looking for sustainable, development of development. And now even this is going to be, if this is going to really become mainstream again, hum kahan jayenge bhai? Free market. Libertarianism thoda bahut kab aayega?
It's not just political polarization, it's polarization on identity lines. So yes, we may have to ignore certain things. We may have to ignore some noises. What can we contribute? What can we become? Is there any limitation on that? No, there is no limitation. If you're a Muslim, you can become the prime minister. You can go into ISRO. You can become whatever you want. You can become a corporate leader. Whatever it is that you want. I mean, digital public infrastructure is secular.
She has just woken up to the fact that BJP is left of center. And she's saying that, yeah, we are all leftists. Why shouldn't we appreciate this? So that's a big problem for us, bhai. Right wing takma, right wing upadhi hi chala gaya BJP ke haath se abhi.
And our governance is moving more towards the digital. So maybe it's premature, but I don't think it's unfounded to say that we are actually moving towards secularization by virtue of digitalization.
So do you feel that Muslim reservation is something that is needed because otherwise there can't be equality, or do you feel that it should be open competition for everything?
Regardless of whether we have reservation or not, there should be self-representation. I mean, I have variously described myself as a feminist, leftist, Ambedkarite, and I'm very inspired by Dr. Ambedkar, by his intellect, and I've read his readings, his writings very extensively. So he talked the core of Ambedkar.
Has she read Pakistan or Partition of India? That's a mystery. What do you think?
I thought is self-representation. So regardless of whether you have reservation or you don't have reservation, self-representation is important, and that is something that I believe in. Muslims should be represented, and it's not that only a Muslim can represent a Muslim, but yes, should there be more Muslims in representation?
Well,
yeah, there should be.
Very important point to make, guys. Muslim representation zaruri hai, that already triggers me, but it does not necessarily have to be a Muslim. That's a very beautiful thing to say.
Politics mein, what is the
it's
hesitation?
It's never too late for politics in India. I think I can wait for getting retired, and then I can join politics.
But there are lots of people who feel that the BJP will benefit with you being in the party because you're a progressive Indian Muslim. So why not the BJP? And the Congress, of course, has a number of progressive Muslim women in their party. And then you have the choice of the NC or the PDP, both Kashmiri political parties. So you have the field right open before you. Any political party would want you there. So why?
I think it's for me now. It's less a question of which party or whatever I go with. The great question for me that I have to answer, when I grow old and when I'm 60 or when I'm 80, I don't want to confront the question of what did I contribute? What are the narratives that I furthered? Did I contribute to the victimization or victimhood complex of my community? Did I hold them back from progress? I think I'm going to be confronted with those questions when I turn 60 or 80. So priority for me today is not which party I join or whatever. Like that's a moot question. The question is, what are the things that I'm going to contribute to? Will I contribute to a positive narrative, or will I continue to harp on those negative things that I've done in the past? And as I said, like it's never too late for politics in India. I mean, I can easily retire at 60, 65 and then join politics. Who knows?
Okay, so just towards the end, let's lighten the mood. We've talked about such serious things.
Yeah.
What is the kind of cuisine that you like to eat the most?
Oh,
Is
we
it
are not
every
now
Kashmiri
going
says
to
it's
end this,
Kashmiri
yeah.
food?
So yeah, now they are going to discuss Kashmiri cuisine. Okay. Anyway, camera kahan pe hai? So yeah, let me check some comments and then after that we will go offline. This was a fun discussion. So in conclusion, of course, let's see what Shehla Rashid says in future. And tell me, did y'all's skepticism decrease or increase after hearing this? Of course, the things she said about BJP now, that what he was saying, that now I'm more afraid of, more angry with BJP. So yeah, she has basically unmasked BJP's fake right-wing credentials. Basically, she has proved that BJP is in fact a left-wing party. Gotank is saying, here to learn, that is because you somewhat understand the reality of Islam, but some in the comment section don't understand. No. Everyone, all my viewers know the issues, but the solutions have to be pragmatic. Rashid is saying, well, I think she's at least going to ace her UPSC review interview. Don't know about theory. Aurobindo is a Hindu theologian. Yes, I like his philosophy and is possible their Pandit order has made some of the best Hindu philosophers in the last 200 years. Personal opinion, Aurobindo is better than Vivekananda. Most probably she has not read that book of Ambedkar. ये अगर पढ़ती तो थोड़ा मजा आता. Conclusion is BJP is left wing. Yes. On economics, yes. Please check community section. Yes, I will. Libertarianism has never worked politically. No, see, libertarianism does not work politically because those dumb fucks imagine that there's nothing called identity. There's no nation, no identity. No one hates anyone for their identity, etc. In that particular context, they are just like commies. In theory, community sharing इतना अच्छे चीज़ें हो सकते थे, मगर इंसान है नहीं वैसा, तो क्या करे? Any idea that requires each and every human in the world to follow that idea in order for that idea to succeed is a bullshit idea, which is why I like to approach things from a libertarian perspective, but I don't imagine that there's no borders required or there's no identity in question here. So I am in favor of heterodox people or individualism, but I also acknowledge that has to happen inside a homogeneous society, civilizational framework, which is protected and held strong by orthodox people. ऑर्थोडॉक्स लोग होंगे, उसके बाद जाके हेटेरोडॉक्स पीपल का वो चुतियापा होगा, ठीक है? नॉट चुतियापा, दे आर फ्लरिशिंग. व्हाट आई वाज सेइंग इन द बिगिनिंग एज वेल, दैट मॉडरेट को भाव तब मिलता है जब रेडिकल पूरा मादाचोद होता है. अगर रेडिकल जो एक्सट्रीम रेडिकल है वो ही अगर सॉफ्टली बात करेगा तब मॉडरेट को कोई भाव नहीं देगा. लाइक मेनी पीपल, मेनी वेगन्स यूज्ड टू डू लाइक 24/7 debates, etc. They still do on social media. They hold banners here, they do campaigns everywhere. That's why I get to play sort of a moderate vegan who's not pissed off all the time. Okay, so we will need layers of people, tiers of believers always. I think more discussion can be done on decoloniality as to how Elon Musk sees it. I feel right-wing in India might take wrong cues from Elon on this one. Yes. India was already a police state with so much fucking bureaucracy. Yes. Bhai, you are thinking of classical liberalism and not libertarian of the Austrian school. I am thinking of libertarianism as well. You go in the Indian libertarian discussion group. All of them are against anything remotely in favor of Hinduism. So I'm in favor of libertarianism, that keep government away from your life as much as possible. Decrease government's powers as much as possible. Have a free market as much as possible. But when people say libertarianism does not work politically, the libertarianism they mean is the libertarianism I'm talking about. That borders khol do bhai. Some people quote Upanishads in a weird way and conclude that Upanishads objectify women in a lustful way. Same people complain that it is a dogma. Small government supporters fail because when they are in power, like DeSantis Disney thing, they criticize their own from supporting their own ideology. Yeah, but it was not done to a large extent. But anyway, today's USA is not really that big of an example of small government. Unka public welfare scheme, public spending, government spending is off the roof. So we can't take today's individual American politicians that seriously. Only Vivek. Are Indians see women differently before Islam? Yeah. I would really like to see a discussion between Western intellectuals like Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, PBD, and our intellectuals like JSD, Swami Sarvapriyananda, and Sanjeev Sanyal, etc. I don't think Swami Sarvapriyananda would be too much of a significant voice in this. Sanjeev Sanyal would not be, because he is not that of a fiery debater. Unfortunately, only J.Sai Deepak would be a great addition while conversing with Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Patrick Bet-David. Oigulo was also a point of classical liberalism, like Adam Smith. Yeah. Just do business and everything else will go away. Yeah, it's not like libertarians did not learn something from Adam Smith as well. No man, digital systems is another level of surveillance state. The previous bureaucratic state was child's play. Yeah, of course. Privacy is out of question today. Privacy is over. तुमने यूपीआई कर दिया है, अब तुम्हारे फोन ऑफ होने से भी इमरजेंसी मैसेज आ रहा है. प्राइवेसी छोड़ दो. इफ यू आर कंस्पायरिंग अगेंस्ट द गवर्नमेंट टुडे, यू आर फक्ड. From now on, know this. If there are some terrorist attacks, it's because the government wants that terrorist attack to happen to garner some sympathy or to play some election equations, okay? There is no privacy anymore. That train, that ship has sailed. उतना लिबर्टेरियनिज्म खेलने का दिन आया ही नहीं इंडिया में, उससे पहले चला भी गया. तो आई एम नॉट इवन cribbing about privacy like American libertarians. Okay, then I'll end the live stream now. No, JP is a J Shrill Shapiro is a Zionist. J ওরা আমাদের সাথে কেন খেলবে? It is these technological issues that I say pursue धार्मिक AI system, else we are screwed in the long. अरे धार्मिक AI system चलाएगा तो गवर्नमेंट ही, और गवर्नमेंट का हमेशा हरामी दिमाग रहेगा ही. Okay, good night guys. Thank you for joining the live stream, and tomorrow is the World Cup final. Do watch that and hopefully we win. Good night guys.